Chapter 787. Who are you? The last guard standing behind Ao Holy Sun was shocked. He turned around and threw a punch at Qin Xiaobei. Jade Emperor's Sword Array. Boom. The Jade Emperor's Sword Array exploded, and sword chi surrounded the middle ethereal stage expert. Bastard. The middle ethereal stage expert attacked the Jade Emperor's Sword Array furiously. The Jade Emperor's Sword Array was pushed back. The middle ethereal stage expert was furious. Immortal state? How dare you attack me? You must be tired of living. He was about to step forward when Yin Chuan smiled and gestured to the other side. The middle ethereal stage expert turned his head away. What are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Ao Holy Sun roared. Hua Guang's spear was pointed at Ao Holy Sun's head. If Ao Holy Sun moved, the spear would pierce his head. I am Ao Holy Sun. How dare you touch me? How dare you point your spear at me? I want you dead. Ao Holy Sun roared. Bah! Qin Xiaobei swung the spear at Ao Holy Sun's face. The force behind the spear twisted Ao Holy Sun's mouth and knocked 3 of his teeth out. How dare you hit me? Ao Holy Sun covered his face in disbelief. What's wrong with hitting you? If you keep talking, I will pierce your head. Hua Guang said coldly. My father is the palace master of 10th God Palace. He will kill you. Ao Holy Sun roared. Do you think I won't kill you right now? Hua Guang said coldly. The proud Sky Holy Sun's expression changed when the spear was pressed against his head. Looking at Hua Guang's cold eyes, the proud Sky Holy Sun felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this before. Moreover, they even had the power to decide his life and death. Ooh, quickly call me father, quickly call me father. The proud Heaven Holy Sun cried out in horror. Stop. What are you doing? He's proud Heaven's Holy Sun. This is the territory of the divine sect. If even a single hair on proud Heaven's Holy Sun is harmed, you'll all die. If I lose even a hair, I'll die? Did the few front teeth that were knocked out just now count? Oh no, if we're all going to die, then what's the point of keeping this kid alive? Hua Guang, why don't we just kill him? Yin Chuan smiled as he flew over. Don't. That expert's expression changed as he cried out in horror. Yin Chuan flew over and reached out with his hand, sealing proud Heaven's Holy Sun's cultivation base in the blink of an eye. The middle void stage expert's face twitched violently. 2 God state warriors? These 2 are just in the divine realm? He actually dared to restrain proud Heaven's Holy Sun? What are you doing? As long as you release the Holy Sun, everything will be fine. That expert said anxiously. Let them stop first. Yin Chuan said calmly. That expert immediately shouted, Stop! Everyone stop! Hearing that expert shout, the 8 experts in the battle all frowned. The 3-legged golden crow was dying. At this time, as long as they put in more effort, they would be able to take down the 3-legged golden crow. Everyone turned their heads to look in displeasure. At first glance, everyone's expression changed drastically, and their hair stood on end. Bang! The 8 experts quickly flew away and looked at proud Heaven's Holy Sun in horror. Who are you? What are you doing? Bastard! Release proud Heaven's Holy Sun. Everyone shouted in horror. On the other side, the 3-legged golden crow was about to die. Suddenly the battle stopped. The 3-legged golden crow was slightly stunned and turned around. Proud Heaven Holy Sun, who was incomparably arrogant before, was captured. Chapter 788. Yin Chuan. The 3-legged golden crow's face changed. The 3-legged golden crow had thought of many possible outcomes for today's disaster. He could die in battle, be captured, or even be rescued, but it couldn't be Yin Chuan. Jin Deyu, you're safe now. You can go now. Yin Chuan suddenly looked at Jin Deyu with a smile. Jin Deyu's figure flickered and turned into a golden-robed man. However, this golden-robed man was covered in wounds and extremely weak. Go. Jin Deyu took a step forward and was about to leave. However, when he looked at Yin Chuan, who was surrounded by 9 Middle Void Realm experts, his face sank. Ha, my Jin clan has never had a coward. Yin Chuan, I won't accept your kindness. Jin Deyu said stubbornly. Then he stepped toward Yin Chuan and Hua Guang. Divine Realm? He was saved by 2 Divine Realm experts and he had to run away? Jin Deyu couldn't accept it. If he ran away, it would be admitting that he was a coward. He couldn't even compare to 2 Divine Realm experts. This shadow would follow him for the rest of his life. With Jin Deyu's pride, he couldn't accept it. Jin Deyu flew over. The 9 Middle Void Realm experts were still coldly looking at Yin Chuan. Release Aotion's holy son. Otherwise, don't blame me for making a move. A Middle Void Realm expert said coldly. Make a move? Aotion's holy son is in my hands. Do you dare? Yin Chuan said coldly. Humph, you want to threaten me with Aotion's holy son? You're still too inexperienced. The old man said coldly. Then the old man waved the long sword in his hand and was about to stab. The other 8 Middle Void Realm experts were also about to make a move. Ah! Aotion's holy son suddenly screamed. Huoguang's spear stabbed Aotion's holy son's leg. Blood gushed out. I'm sorry, proud heaven holy son. This old man scared me. My hand trembled and the spear stabbed you. If you want to blame someone, blame him. Huoguang said with a look of shame. The faces of the Emptiness Realm experts on the other side darkened. Are you scared? Woo woo. The proud sky holy son cried out in pain. At the same time, he couldn't help but glare at the old man with resentment. The old man opened his mouth and bitterly took a step back. What do you want? Did he come for the 3-legged golden crow? Now that the 3-legged golden crow has been saved, it is better to release the holy son. We promise not to pursue the matter. The old man immediately shouted. Do I have the word gullible written on my face? Yin Chuan laughed. The old man's face turned red. Then what do you want? We can't stay here for long. Everyone come with me. Let's find a safe place first and then we can slowly discuss. Yin Chuan said with a smile. The Emptiness Realm experts had strange expressions on their faces. These 2 bastards are too bold. Okay. The old man nodded. Rumble. A huge flying boat was flying over at high speed. Yin Chuan, Huoguang, and Proud Heaven Holy Son boarded the flying boat. Jin Dayu also boarded the flying boat with a strange look on his face. The flying boat flew, and the 9 Emptiness Realm experts followed closely behind. They quickly left this place. Lord Dayu, it's a small world. We meet again? Yin Chuan said with a smile. This time he was almost dead, but he was saved by a little Immortal Realm expert. Jin Dayu looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression. The first time he destroyed the Great Winged Heaven School, the second time he was stabbed, and the third time he was saved? Was he really not as good as Yin Chuan? You want to subdue me at this time? Jin Dayu said with a gloomy face. Will I, Yin Chuan, take advantage of other people's difficulties? If I did, I wouldn't have let you go last time. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Chapter 789. Jin Dayu's expression was complicated. Yin Chuan turned around and looked at Aotion's holy son. Aotion's holy son, I heard you say that you have many treasures and can heal Jin Dayu's injuries? I wonder if you can. Yin Chuan looked at Aotion's holy son amiably. Aotion's holy son stopped crying and looked at the group of villains in horror. With Huoguang's constant anxiety, Aotion's holy son had suffered a lot. With Aotion's holy son's temperament, how could he have the strength of character? He quickly poured out all kinds of spiritual pills and treasures from his storage treasures. Yin Chuan handed a large number of treasures to Jin Dayu. Jin Dayu looked at the treasures in front of him and didn't know what to say. He wanted to refuse, but it was too pretentious. After all, he was injured all over. I will pay you back in the future. Jin Dayu said in a low voice. Seeing Jin Dayu put away all kinds of healing pills, Yin Chuan nodded and said, Jin Dayu, your healing hall is ready. You can go in and heal your injuries, but there is something I have to say. Jin Dayu looked at Yin Chuan in confusion. 3-legged golden crows may have a glorious history, but people can't live in the past. If you want to restore the glory of 3-legged golden crows, you have to be down to earth and work hard. Maybe your generation won't succeed, but your generation can strengthen the foundation and become stronger generation after generation. As long as you work hard for tomorrow, there will be a day when you can turn things around. That's all I have to say. Go and heal your injuries. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said. Jin Dayu looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression. No one had ever said these words to him before. His father had taught him not to forget his glory, but was it enough just to not forget it? Jin Dayu took a deep breath and nodded. He followed a soldier to a hall. What do you want? My father is the leader of 10th Divine Hall. If something happens to me, my father won't let you go. What do you want? I can give it to you. Saintess, do you want it? I can get a holy maiden in divine sect for you as long as you let me go. Aotion Holy Son shouted in fear. Oh, you can even get a saintess? Yin Chuan laughed. That's right. As long as you don't have a powerful backer, I can get you a talented holy maiden. You can blaspheme them however you want. Please let me go. Proud Heaven's Holy Son begged. No need. Proud heaven holy son, if I let you go, I'll be in danger. Yen Chuan shook his head. On the other side, at the stern of the ship, 9 middle void stage martial artists followed with gloomy expressions. Senior brother, I'll go back and report to master. You guys continue to follow. Someone shouted. The 9 of them looked at each other and finally nodded. Just as everyone was about to leave, Guang appeared and said in a loud voice, "Everyone, you're not going to send a message, are you?" The faces of the 9 people stiffened. "We're watching you. If one of you is missing, we'll cut off one of Proud Heaven's Holy Son's legs. You can leave, but I don't know how many legs Proud Heaven's Holy Son has to cut off." Guang laughed. The 9 people's faces changed. "Bastard. Have you thought about the consequences? Do you know the consequences of going against 10th God Hall?" The leading old man roared. "Consequences? I don't know, but I know what will happen to us if we let Proud Heaven's Holy Son go." Guang laughed. Everyone looked helpless. Of course they couldn't just let this matter go. Let them go? As long as Proud Heaven's Holy Son was safe, 10th God Hall would take revenge. On the other side, Proud Heaven's Holy Son's cultivation base was sealed. At this moment, Yen Chuan invited him to a large hall. "What do you want?" Proud Heaven's Holy Son asked with an ugly expression. "It's nothing. Come, sit down and have some tea. Relax and tell me about your divine sect sacred grounds." Yen Chuan greeted with a smile. Chapter 790. It was a huge valley. Yen Chuan's airship stopped beside a large lake. In the distance, the 9 great void stage experts glanced at each other, and all of their eyes revealed bewilderment. "Senior brother, it's been 2 months. What are these people doing?" "Yes, brother. What do they want to do with the Holy Son?" "Senior brother, should we inform the hall master?" The 9 people discussed in low voices. The old man in the lead shook his head and said, "The hall master has assigned the 9 of us to protect the Holy Son. We have already failed in our mission and will be punished by the hall master when we return. However, as long as the Holy Son is safe, we can bear any punishment. However, if we act rashly and the Holy Son loses a leg or an arm, we will not be able to escape the blame." But everyone was still worried. "No buts. We'll be punished if we go back and report, and we'll also be punished if we stay here. It's better not to anger this group of people. Moreover, we've been missing for 2 months. On the other hand, the palace master must have sent people to look for us." The old man said, "Don't worry. As long as we keep the Holy Son safe, the temple master will be able to find us soon," the old man said solemnly. "Yes. The safety of the Holy Son is our top priority." Everyone nodded. At this moment, a black-robed man slowly walked over. It was Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang walked to the front of the crowd and took a step forward. Buzz. A compass pattern was formed on the ground. The earth trembled slightly. "Everyone please make way. I'm going to set up a formation," Feng Yinyang said calmly. The faces of the 9 middle void stage martial artists turned unsightly. They made way for Feng Yinyang to continue setting up the formation. The 9 middle void stage experts walked to the side with awkward expressions. "Senior brother, is he setting up a feng shui array? Should we arrest him?" "Yes, capture him and trade him for the Holy Son." Everyone whispered among themselves. "No." The leading old man immediately stopped everyone. "So what if you captured a feng shui master? What if we can't save the Holy Son and infuriate them and hurt the Holy Son? What should we do then?" The leading old man asked in a low voice. Everyone's face sank. "What's more, even if the Holy Son is saved, our failure will not be mitigated. What's the difference between saving him and not saving him? It wouldn't be long before the hall master would be able to find them. Wouldn't it be better for the hall master to save the Holy Son? That way, at least the young temple master will understand that we were also forced," the old man explained. Everyone's expression suddenly became serious and they all nodded. Feng Yinyang continued to set up the formation. The 9 middle void stage martial artists could only watch from the side. "Everyone please make way. We haven't set up the formation here yet." Feng Yinyang walked up again. The 9 middle void stage martial artists stepped aside, speechless. If it weren't for that little ancestor, would they have fallen to such a state? On the flying boat, in front of the main hall where Jin Deyu was. "Your Majesty, you mustn't. Jin Deyu is in danger." Guang stopped Yen Chuan. "Don't worry." Yen Chuan shook his head. After saying that, Yen Chuan stepped into the main hall where Jin Deyu was. Bang! The door of the main hall slammed shut. "Hades Emperor, please." Jean Dayu said in a low voice. There was a table in the middle of the main hall with tea on it. Jean Dayu was in high spirits at this moment. He nodded. Yen Chuan swung his robe and sat down slowly. Jean Dayu, are you feeling better? Yen Chuan smiled. Yen Chuan didn't stand on ceremony with the tea on the table. He picked it up and took a sip. Chapter 791. Jean Dayu looked at Yen Chuan with a complicated expression on his face. 70% done. Proud heaven's holy son really has a lot of treasures. The treasures he has on him are comparable to the treasures of a middle-level sect leader. Jean Dayu sighed. Congratulations. Yen Chuan smiled. Hades Emperor, why are you helping me? Jean Dayu asked. Why do you think I let you go back then? Yen Chuan stared at Jean Dayu and smiled. Jean Dayu frowned. Hades Emperor, I've said it before. I will never submit to Great Zhen. Jean Dayu shook his head. Why? Yen Chuan smiled. Jean Dayu fell silent. Yen Chuan put down his teacup and his face became serious. Jean Dayu, I know that you are arrogant. I can see that your backbone comes from the glory in your heart, from your ancestor. However, your ancestor is still your ancestor. Do you think that you can reach the heights of your ancestor? Yen Chuan asked in a low voice. Of course I can't be compared to my ancestors. Jean Dayu shook his head, but his eyes flashed with unwillingness. Even the glory of your ancestor will fall one day. Even your ancestor couldn't resist the will of the heavens, can you reverse it? Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Jean Dayu took a deep breath. There was a moment of silence. No one is born to be number one in the world. Every number one in the world has to go through a long process of growth. In comparison, you're still too weak. Even I, Great Zhen, am too weak. However, we can grow, we can become stronger. One day we will stand at the peak of the world. Yen Chuan said solemnly. The peak of the world? Jean Dayu looked bitter. He had almost died several times, but it was like a joke to him. You have the potential, but you don't have the means. You don't have the platform to display your talent. Come to Great Zhen. I'll give you a platform. Yen Chuan persuaded again. You're giving me a platform? Jean Dayu frowned. That's right. I'll give you a platform, the best platform. I'll let you lead an army and thousands of heroes. As long as you stay in the Great Zhen Empire for 1,000 years, I won't stop you if they're willing to abandon the Great Zhen Empire and follow you. What do you think? Yen Chuan asked solemnly. Submit for 1,000 years? You want me to nurture my own faction? Jean Dayu asked in surprise. I'm not asking you to nurture him, I'm asking you to display your abilities. Is your charisma stronger or is my charisma stronger? If you are stronger than De Zhen can even let you have him. Yen Chuan said with certainty. Ha 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 ha. Jean Dayu laughed strangely with a complicated expression. He looked at Yen Chuan who he couldn't figure out. You don't trust me? Yen Chuan laughed. Jean Dayu frowned, disbelief flashing in his eyes. Then you shall see if I have the right to let you stay in Great Zhen. Yen Chuan's expression froze. Roar. The will of an emperor gushed out. Jean Dayu seemed to see a vast golden dragon charging at him. The dragon's head was lofty and ferocious as it opened its mouth and roared. Wah! Jean Dayu's will suddenly erupted. A huge will of the golden crow suddenly appeared. Boom! The two wills collided with a loud bang. Roar! Wah! Boom! 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 The two wills collided violently. For a moment, the hall was filled with loud clashing sounds. Golden light illuminated the entire hall. The two wills didn't give way to each other. Jean Dayu knew his own will. Among cultivators of the same level, no one's will could compare to his. This was because Jean Dayu's will contained an intense heat that could burn his opponent's will. Chapter 792. True Sun Fire. Boom. A ring of fire suddenly appeared around the will of the golden crow. It seemed to have turned into a huge sun and rushed toward the golden dragon. Heavenly cycle of stars. Wang. Countless stars suddenly appeared around the golden dragon. The endless starry sky surrounded the golden dragon as if the golden dragon was the lord of the stars. Boom. The dragon and crow collided again. The dragon swayed its tail and the crow's feathers trembled. They collided again and again. The dragon's mouth, dragon's claws, and crow's beak all became the most primitive barbaric weapons. The two wills kept colliding. Boom, 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 boom. This battle lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. Boom. The golden dragon clawed the back of the golden crow. The golden dragon raised its head and roared as if to vent its victory. The will of the golden crow wriggled for a while but could not move. Phew. The golden dragons will sway and return to Yan Chuan's body. The golden crows will also slowly disappear with a sense of unwillingness. Jin Dayu looked at Yan Chuan in disbelief. I'm at the middle void realm. But Yan Chuan is only at the immortal state? Is the immortal state's will so much stronger than mine? Once he reaches the middle void realm, how can I be his opponent? Jin Dayu's face was full of disappointment. Little did he know that Yan Chuan's will was at the upper void realm, which was one level higher than Jin Dayu's. This was a battle without any suspense. There was no need to guess the result. Of course, Yan Chuan would not tell Jin Dayu. What do you think, Jin Dayu? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. Jin Dayu said bitterly, Hades Emperor, I'm not as good as you. A deep sense of defeat enveloped Jin Dayu. In Dezhen there are more than one or two who can surpass you. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Jin Dayu was surprised. Not just one or two. Jin Dayu originally thought that his cultivation was one of the best even in the Great Perfection realm, but what did Yan Chuan mean by that? Yan Chuan shook his head and did not explain further. After all, Jin Dayu had yet to agree to join the Great Jin Kingdom, so what was there to say? Jin Dayu, I don't know how glorious your ancestors were, but if you want to return to those heights, you have to be down to earth. You also need a platform and an opportunity. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said solemnly, My Great Jin is in dire need of manpower right now. That's why I've repeatedly advised you that when my Great Jin has exhausted its manpower, if I come to recruit you again, it won't be me coming personally. Jin Dayu's expression suddenly changed. Yan Chuan's words were very clear. Now was an opportunity. In the future, when there were many powerful officials in Great Jin, it would be the officials of Great Jin who came to recruit him. The treatment then would definitely be different from now. Jin Dayu's expression was complicated. At this moment he was already willing, but his pride still made it difficult for him to take this step. Are you still holding on to your past pride? That pride doesn't belong to you. It belongs to your ancestors. Your ancestors created glory but you didn't create anything. What are you proud of? Yan Chuan advised again. Jin Dayu's expression froze. In the end he smiled bitterly. Jin Dayu took a deep breath and bowed. Jin Dayu is willing to join the Great Jin Kingdom for 1,000 years. Greetings, Your Majesty. Yan Chuan threw his teacup and stood up immediately. He quickly helped Jin Dayu up and said, Haha, with Jin Dayu's help, Great Jin will be like a tiger that has grown wings. The day of the Heavenly Empire is just around the corner. I've been waiting for this for a long time. You flatter me, Your Majesty. Jin Dayu sighed. I didn't flatter you. I can see clearly that you just haven't had a place to display your talents. Great Jin will definitely help you display your talents. From today onwards, I confer Jin Dayu as the third army commander of the Great Jin dynasty. You can lead a large army with 100,000 retainers. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Jin Dayu understood the meaning of the term, army commander. It wasn't a title of nobility or an official position. However, in a country, it was more precious than any official position or nobility because the army commander was one of the country's backbone. It was equivalent to a country's founding hero. It had great authority. The third army commander was also the great importance Yan Chuan placed on him. Thank you, Your Majesty. Jin Dayu officially accepted the appointment. Chapter 793. East Divine Continent, Dezhen Dynasty, Yan Capital. Above the Sea of Providence. Boom. The Sea of Providence churned violently. Yifeng and Lu Gang walked out of the main hall once again. They looked at the churning Sea of Providence. Did the Emperor take in another important official? Lu Gang asked in surprise. Yifeng nodded his head and said, That's right. I wonder what kind of person he is to be able to make His Majesty pay so much attention to him. The Sea of Providence is churning violently. Looking at the sky, Yifeng asked again, Lu Gang, did you check the East faction carefully? Don't worry, Lordy. There won't be any trouble in the Imperial Court. Lu Gang said confidently. Yifeng nodded. In another magnificent main hall in Yan Capital, the former Yan Emperor, now Marquis Yan Chuyu, looked at the Sea of Providence with longing. Behind Yan Chuyu stood a black-robed figure. Yan Emperor, no, Marquis Yan, look carefully. The Dezhen dynasty, the original De Yan, was originally yours. You can feel the providence on you. If you become the Emperor, you will have more providence on you, the black-robed figure said softly. Yan Chuyu clenched her fists and her face darkened. All of this was originally yours. The black-robed figure whispered. Yan Chuyu's eyes flashed with jealousy. Middle Divine Continent, in a valley near the Archaean sect's sacred ground. Feng Yinyang had already set up the array. Yan Xuan was still in Jin Deyu's main hall, talking to his official. Your Majesty, although I joined the Dezhen dynasty, I hope you won't. Jin Deyu said with a frown. I need you, Jin Deyu, not your ancestor. You don't have to explain to me. I believe you. Yan Xuan put down his teacup and said solemnly. Thank you, Your Majesty. Jin Deyu was relieved. Suddenly Jin Deyu's face changed. Your Majesty, this is bad. Quang. Jin Deyu quickly opened the main hall door. He shielded Yan Xuan behind him and looked into the distance warily. You're here? Yan Xuan's face sank. Yes. Jin Deyu said with an ugly expression. Rumble. Suddenly, a powerful aura descended from the sky, as if it was going to crush the entire valley into dust. In the outside world, the faces of the 9 middle void stage martial artists immediately lit up with joy. The Hall Master is here. The Hall Master is here. Greetings, Hall Master. The 9 of them respectfully bowed towards the pressure in the sky. Rumble. The oppressive void suddenly shone with a dazzling black light. The black light condensed and gradually transformed into a man in a black robe. The man's robe was wide and he looked incomparably noble. However, his face was blurry as if it was covered by a layer of black fog. It was impossible to see his face clearly. Virtuous Dharma Laksana? Yan Xuan let out a sigh as confidence flashed in his eyes. The black-robed man's aura suppressed everyone. Hall Master, it's them. They are the ones who kidnapped the young Hall Master. A middle void realm martial artist immediately shouted. Hall Master, the young Hall Master is on the flying boat. Quickly save the young Hall Master. Another middle void realm martial artist shouted. The black-robed man turned his head and glanced at the 9 middle void realm martial artists. He said indifferently, trash. The 9 people's faces changed. In the end, no one dared to refute. 9 middle void realm martial artists protecting Ao Tian's holy son were kidnapped by 2 divine realm martial artists in the end? If this got out, it would definitely be the biggest joke in the divine sect. Father, 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 save me, father. Ao Tian's holy son's surprised cry came from a main hall on the flying boat. Chapter 794. Father, quick. Capture all of them. I want revenge. I want revenge. Ao Tian holy son's voice suddenly flashed with a hint of ruthlessness. In a large hall, the ravenous wolf was guarding the proud sky sage son. Tan Lang heard Ao Tian holy son's words and immediately kicked Ao Tian holy son in the stomach. Ah! How dare you kick me? Ao Tian holy son said fiercely. I want my father to extract your soul. I want your soul to be exposed to the sun every day. I want you to beg for death. Ao Tian holy son said fiercely. Now that his father was here, Ao Tian holy son relied on him the most. No one who offended him would have a good ending. Keep talking and I'll kill you. Tan Lang said fiercely. Ao Tian holy son's face stiffened. Ruthless people were afraid of unreasonable people. No matter how ruthless the proud sky saint son was, he was not a threat to the straightforward greed. If he forced greed into a corner, then everyone would die together. Proud heaven saint son clutched his stomach that was kicked, his face full of horror. I've seen your portrait before. Are you Yan Xuan of Dezhen dynasty? The black-robed figure said lightly. Greetings, 10th God Palace Lord. Yan Xuan nodded. Jin Deyu, Hua Guang and Feng Yinyang all stood behind Yan Xuan. 10th God Palace Lord? Do you know that my surname is Kong? The black-robed figure said lightly. 10th God Palace Lord Kong Shenshui? I know. Yan Xuan said in a deep voice. No, you don't know. The black-robed figure said in a deep voice. Yan Xuan was puzzled. According to seniority, Kong Susu is my cousin. You should know who I am. Kong Shenshui said again. Kong Susu's cousin? Yan Xuan frowned. Kong Susu is Yan Xuan's mother. Kong Shenshui is Kong Susu's cousin? Kong family? Wasn't the Kong family in the West? Why are you here? According to seniority, you should call me uncle, and Kong Outyin should be your cousin. Kong Shenshui explained. The group of middle void stage experts stared blankly at the sky. Uncle? Cousin? Everyone was still thinking about how to punish Yan Xuan after capturing him to vent the hatred in their hearts. However, the relationship between Zhang Xian and the Hall Master caused the hearts of the crowd to freeze to death. It wasn't just the 9 middle void stage martial artists. Even Jin Deyu, Hua Guang and Feng Yinyang all revealed bewildered expressions. Uncle? This person was the emperor's uncle? Looking at Kong Shenshui in front of him, Yan Xuan was unmoved, but he believed his words. Kong Xianshui? Kong Susu? The first hall master of the divine sect wouldn't lie about this, because there was no need for that at this moment. However, Yin Chuan did not show too much affection towards this uncle who had suddenly appeared. Firstly, the Kong family did nothing to stop his mother's death. Secondly, his father's last words warned him to be careful of the Kong family. Yin Chuan smiled and said, Hallmaster Kong, what's your plan? Kong Outyin is your cousin, so he's one of us. Let him out first. Kong Xianshui said matter-of-factly. Huo Guang and the others all looked at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan stared at Kong Xianshui and shook his head slightly. Since they are relatives, please rest assured, Hallmaster Kong. I promise that Kong Outyin won't lose a single hair. What do you think? Kong Xuanshui's voice suddenly revealed a hint of coldness. It's not that I don't want to let him go, but we are weak and have to consider our own safety. Yin Chuan smiled. Your safety? You don't believe me? Kong Xianshui said coldly. Chapter 795. I believe you. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yin Chuan believed that Kong Xianshui was his relative, but he didn't believe that Kong Xianshui would be friendly to him. Haha, Yin Chuan, you're just like Susu. You're so suspicious of me. Since I'm your uncle, why are you so worried? He's your cousin, not an outsider. Kong Xianshui said again. Because we're relatives, Hallmaster Kong should trust me. Don't worry, I'll release Kong Outyin as soon as I'm safe, Yin Chuan said firmly. Neither of them was willing to back down. Suddenly the atmosphere became awkward. The 9 middle void stage experts didn't dare to say anything. After all, this was the Hallmaster's family affair. Huo Guang, Feng Yinyang, and Jin Deyu were watching and learning from Kong Xianshui. Humph. Kong Xianshui snorted. A huge aura was emitted, and the huge pressure caused the entire flying boat to shake and tremble. Kong Xianshui was infuriated. Hallmaster Kong, why are you doing this? Yin Chuan took a step forward and said in a deep voice. Today I'd like to see how powerful Kong Susu's son is. How dare he talk back to his uncle? Kong Xianshui said coldly. If so, Yin Chuan will accompany Hallmaster Kong and have a try. Yin Chuan took a step forward with a smile. Accompany Kong Xianshui and have a try? Not to mention Kong Xianshui, the 9 middle void stage experts were also at a loss. What kind of joke was this? How dare a divine realm expert boast so shamelessly? Kong Xianshui was also slightly stunned. He just wanted to suppress Yin Chuan with his aura. He didn't expect that Yin Chuan would dare to fight him. Was this guy out of his mind? Good. Don't worry, you're Kong Susu's son. I won't hurt you. Kong Xianshui said coldly. So, Hallmaster Kong is giving face to my mother? Yin Chuan said with a smile. That's right. Then why don't Hallmaster Kong allow me to make the first move? Yin Chuan said with a smile. The faces of the 9 middle void stage martial artists turned black. This Yin Chuan was too good at taking advantage of the situation. Ha, good, show me what you've got. Kong Xianshui looked at Yin Chuan in surprise. Yin Chuan nodded and looked at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang nodded lightly. Yin Chuan reached out and took out the Great Heavenly Seal. He tossed the Great Heavenly Seal into the sky. Suddenly, a dragon roar resounded from the ground. Rumble. The earth churned, and 9 huge mountain ranges suddenly appeared in the surroundings. Feng Shui array? Kong Xianshui frowned. Hallmaster, that Feng Shui master set up a formation earlier. A middle void stage expert shouted. Arg. 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 Suddenly, 9 golden dragons rushed out from the ground. The energy of the 9 dragon veins rushed into the Great Heavenly Seal. Boom. The 9 dragons rushed into the Great Heavenly Seal, and the Great Heavenly Seal suddenly emitted a dazzling light. It expanded by more than 10,000 times and fell from the sky toward Kong Xianshui. Kong Xianshui didn't think much of it at first. So what if an immortal state treasure was powerful? Even if the 9 dragon veins were added, they wouldn't be a threat to him. When the Great Heavenly Seal was close to him, he felt something was wrong. What kind of jade is that? How can it dissolve my virtuous Dharma idol? Kong Xuanshui's face changed. The Great Heavenly Seal, yellow jade of heaven and earth? It's used to break chi and virtuous Dharma? Kong Xuanshui's face changed drastically. Hong? Under the pressure of the Great Heavenly Seal, the powerful virtuous Dharma idol collapsed. Kong Xuanshui's virtuous Dharma idol collapsed and disappeared. It was too fast and too fake. The middle void stage experts were petrified. They couldn't recover from the shock for a long time. How is this possible? The Hall Master is gone? Boom. The surrounding dragon veins were drained by Feng Yin-yang, and the mountains collapsed. They turned into a pile of rubble. Yin Chuan used the great heavenly seal. Let's go. Let's leave this place. Yin Chuan shouted. Chapter 796. Central Divine Continent, Divine Sect Sacred Grounds. In a large hall, a black-robed man was sitting on a throne. His hands were resting on the chair, and his eyes were closed as if he had fallen asleep. Suddenly, the man opened his eyes and a torrential qi gushed out. Roar! With a furious roar, the man slapped away a tea set on the table beside him. Yin Chuan? Little bastard, you're the same as your mother, both of you aren't good people. The man said coldly. This person was Divine Sect's Holy Land, 10th Divine Hall's Palace Master, Kong Shenshui. Back then your mother betrayed the Kong clan and ruined my plans. Now I've set things right. You little bastard, you actually came here as well? It's useless even if you're here. If it wasn't for the fact that I have to refine the great world-suppressing steel and can't leave, how could I allow you to act so impudently? If anything happens to my son, I will skin you alive. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed with hatred. The heaven and earth great mystic yellow jade? Ah. Kong Xuanshui's eyes flashed with greed. Yin Chuan's flying boat quickly left the place. The 9 Middle Void Realm martial artists followed behind. The 9 of them were still in a daze. The previous scene was too bizarre. Had he managed to shatter the Hall Master with a single palm? How was this possible? At the stern of the ship, Yin Chuan looked at the 9 people. Now, the 9 of you don't need to follow us. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. What? The old man's face darkened. If Kong Shenshui asks, just tell him that I told you. As long as you don't do anything stupid, Kong Outyin will be fine. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. When did you release the Holy Sun? The old man shouted. When we are safe. Yin Chuan said affirmatively. Everyone hesitated. If you continue to follow me, I can't guarantee that Kong Outyin will be in one piece. Yin Chuan said coldly. Don't. The old man's face darkened. Senior martial brother, you can't listen to him. What if? Another Middle Void stage martial artist immediately cried out. Shut up. The old man said in a deep voice. Ha. No matter how bad the relationship between Yin Chuan and the Temple Master is, the Holy Sun and Yin Chuan are blood relatives after all. The Holy Sun did not offend Yin Chuan, so Yin Chuan will not make things difficult for him. As he said, once it is safe he will release the Holy Sun. The old man said with certainty. Moreover, the Temple Master has already acknowledged Yin Chuan as his relative. If we leave, it won't be considered a dereliction of duty. The old man said in a deep voice. But? No buts. If you insist on doing things your own way and cause harm to the Holy Sun, you will have to answer to the Temple Master and the Holy Sun yourself. The old man said in a low voice. The face of the person who spoke suddenly changed and he shut his mouth. The old man looked at Yin Chuan again. Emperor of Hell, Outyin's Holy Son has been spoiled since he was a child. It is inevitable that he will speak rudely. I hope you can forgive him for the sake of our kinship. The old man said solemnly. Okay. Yin Chuan nodded. Goodbye. The old man said again. Whoosh. He quickly flew away with the 8 Middle Void Stage cultivators. After the Middle Void Stage cultivators left, Yin Chuan let out a sigh of relief. Your Majesty, you know that Kong Shenshui must have the virtuous Dharma Laksana? Feng Yin-yang asked curiously. Yin Chuan smiled and said, during this period of time I found out from Kong Outyin that Kong Shenshui has a precious treasure that needs to be refined quickly. He can't go out, so he arranged 9 Middle Void Stage cultivators to protect him. Otherwise, who do you think would be so extravagant to have 9 Middle Void Stage cultivators as guards? Maybe Kong Shenshui spoils Kong Outyin too much. Hua Guang said in confusion. No matter how much he spoils him, it's impossible. In this world, there can't be too many Middle Void Stage cultivators. 9 guards? It's impossible even in the Dazhao Holy Ground, not to mention the Holy Ground of the Holy Ground of the Holy Sects. This arrangement must be because Kong Shenshui can't protect his son during this period of time. It's just that I didn't expect him to be a member of the Kong family. Yin Chuan said with a serious face. Chapter 797. Your Majesty, are we still going to Meng Hongying's place? Hua Guang asked. No need. Since Kong Outyin knows where Zizi lives, let's go there and pick her up. We will return immediately. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty. Jin Dayu. Yin Chuan looked at Jin Dayu. Your Majesty? I see that you have been fighting as the Golden Crow. Don't you cultivate treasures or weapons? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Jin Dayu looked at Yan Chuan and revealed a trace of bitterness. My family has had its own inheritance of refining artifacts for generations. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find the materials I want, so I haven't used any artifacts. Oh? What material is it that is so hard to find? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Fire Essence Stone of Extreme Yang. Jin Dayu explained. Fire Essence Stone of Extreme Yang? This material is indeed rare. Don't worry. Since you have joined Dezhen will naturally send a large number of people to find the material you want. However, I have never heard of this material being used to refine treasures. My Jin family has been passed down for generations, and our magical treasure is a bell. It is called the Gate of Heaven. Jin Dayu explained. Gate of Heaven? What a great name. Don't worry. I will help you refine the Gate of Heaven as soon as possible. Yan Chuan said confidently. Yes. Thank you, Your Majesty. Jin Dayu replied. The flying boat circled around and avoided all the large cities. High in the sky, they activated the array and formed a white cloud that covered the flying boat. They quickly flew toward the depths of the Archaean sect. I don't want to go to Purple Heart Villa. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Kong Outyin shouted. A month ago, when his father's virtuous Dharma idol was destroyed, Kong Outyin knew that he was in trouble. Therefore he was very cooperative with Yan Chuan. So much so that he would answer every question. However, Kong Outyin did not expect that he would be going to Purple Heart Villa. Shut up. Tan Lang shouted coldly. Tan Lang's shout made Kong Outyin tremble. He had suffered a lot at Tan Lang's hands. Tan Lang did not know how to control his strength when he hit someone. He left behind a group of soldiers to guard the flying boat hidden in the forest. Yan Chuan, Feng Yinyang, Huaguang, Jin Dayu, and Tan Lang escorted Kong Outyin to Zizi's residence. You can't go. Yan Chuan, you really can't go. You don't know how terrifying that Saint Zi is. Anyone who comes into contact with her is unlucky. She is the god of plagues. Kong Outyin exclaimed. Shut up. Yan Chuan said coldly. It's true. When she first arrived, many people chased after her because she's the granddaughter of my divine sex master. But as long as you're near her, everyone would become unlucky. I personally experienced it. Because of her, I was sick for half a year. Even drinking water almost choked me to death. I was even assassinated by hundreds of experts. That's why my father constantly sent guards to protect me. Even more because of her, my demon pet died without knowing why. That's why I wanted to capture Jin Dayu. Kong Outyin said in horror. Ah. Yan Chuan's heart was at ease. You can't go. Yan Chuan, you can't go. I'm also unlucky enough. My father even said that he would find a way for me to marry Saint Zi. But who would dare to marry such a Saint Zi? Who would dare? Kong Outyin exclaimed in horror. What did you say? Kong Shenshui wants you to marry Zizi? Yan Chuan's pupils suddenly shrank. Yes. My father is good to me in everything except this. He wants my life. I don't want this god of plagues. I don't want it. Kong Outyin exclaimed in horror. It's not that you don't want it. It's that you don't deserve it. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Zizi is my wife. Why should I let you marry her? Yan Chuan said in disdain. Ah, really? That's great, that's great. Kong Outyin was indescribably surprised. I came this time to take Zizi away. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Ah, really? That's great. If you take Zizi away, my father won't force me. Alright, we can't go this way. I'll lead the way for you. We'll go the other way. Kong Outyin exclaimed immediately. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Outyin in confusion. My father has arranged a large number of disciples around the Purple Heart Villa to keep an eye on Saint Zi. If we go this way, we'll be discovered soon. At that time, if they stop you from taking Zizi away, we'll be in trouble. Kong Outyin said immediately. Disciples are waiting? Yan Chuan squinted his eyes. I didn't mean to hide it. It's just that. Kong Outyin instantly regretted. He knew that he had spilled the beans. It's okay. I won't blame you if you want to run away. However, you have to tell me why Kong Shenshui keeps looking at Zizi. Yan Chuan frowned and said. Seeing that Yan Chuan didn't blame him, Kong Outyin heaved a sigh of relief. I don't know. My father said that he had been planning this for many years. Someone ruined it and forced Zizi to leave the holy grounds. Now that Zizi is back, he can't let her go. Kong Outyin recalled. The group changed their path. At the same time, Yan Chuan was pondering in his heart. Kong Xuanshui's plan? With Zizi's return, they seemed to be in a new quagmire. Yan Chuan's expression changed and he was even more determined to take Zizi away. Who's there? He suddenly shouted. Whoosh! A golden light flashed and Jin Dayu instantly appeared at the place where the voice came from. He slapped the person unconscious. This is the guard of the Purple Heart Villa. Don't worry, we'll continue. You can leave immediately after taking Saint Zi away. Kong Outyin said excitedly. Finally, he was going to send the plague away. Even if his father was to blame him in the future, it would have nothing to do with him. It would be best if the plague could kill all of them. All of them would die. Kong Outyin thought viciously. With Jin Dayu's help, the journey was extremely smooth. Soon, they avoided all eyes and ears and arrived at the entrance of a valley. There was a waterfall in the valley. The surrounding environment was exactly the same as the Purple Heart Villa in Carefree City. The only difference was that there was an additional hall. King of Hell's Hall. Under the waterfall, there was a purple-robed figure sitting on the pier. She was facing the water and gently washing her purple hair. That delicate figure gently combed her hair. In an instant, Yan Chuan felt like he had returned to the past when he first saw Zizi in Carefree City. A gentle smile appeared on Yan Chuan's face. Wait for me outside. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Everyone replied. When everyone left, Kong Outyin watched Yan Chuan slowly walk towards Zizi. Kong Outyin's eyes flashed with a trace of hatred. This Yan Chuan was really lecherous. He wouldn't even let go of the plague. Let's see how you'll die. Chapter 798. Atlas Studios in the main hall where Meng Hongying was in Archaean sacred ground. She was receiving an important guest, Guyu Holy Sun from the Dazhao sacred ground. Red Embellishment Saintess, please help me pass a message to the Holy Master of Archaean sacred ground. Tell him that I'm here to see him. Guyu Holy Sun said after taking a deep breath. I'm sorry, Guyu Holy Sun. You should know that our Archaean sacred ground has a divine world. The Holy Master and most of the Hall Masters have entered the divine world. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. My grandfather has also said that unless the Archaean sacred ground is in a life-or-death situation, no one is to disturb us. Meng Hongying shook her head. All of them have entered the divine world? Guyu Holy Sun said with a complicated expression. Guyu Holy Sun, what's the matter? It seems that the Guishan Hall Master, Kong Shenxue, has not entered the divine world. If it's really urgent, you can go and see him. Meng Hongying said. Guyu Holy Sun's expression changed. He took a deep breath and shook his head. I've already been to the Guishan Hall. Unfortunately, the Guishan Hall Master has not met anyone. I'm not sure about that. Meng Hongying said with a helpless expression. No, we still need the Red Embellishment Saintess' help. The Ancient Moon Holy Sun said solemnly. Me? Help. Ah, Guyu Holy Sun is flattering me. What can I do? Why don't you try going to the Guishan Hall? Meng Hongying shook her head. No, Red Embellishment Saintess, you're the first Saintess in the Archaean sacred ground. Only you can do this. Guyu Holy Sun said. First Saintess? Ah, Guyu Holy Sun is flattering me. I'm not worthy. Meng Hongying shook her head. Don't worry, Red Embellishment Saintess. It's not a big deal. It's like finding a needle in a haystack to me, but it's just a matter of words for you. Guyu Holy Sun immediately dispelled Meng Hongying's mind. It's like this. You should know about the Great Suppressing Boundary Monument, right? Guyu Holy Sun said in a deep voice. I've heard a little about it. Meng Hongying nodded. A few years ago it was stolen by someone. I, the Great Zhao Holy Sun, was extremely angry. I defied the heavens and deduced that the person who stole the Great World-Suppressing Monument was hiding near the Archaean Holy Ground. You are very familiar with this place. Please help me ask around, Guyu Holy Sun said solemnly. Meng Hongying frowned. The Sacred Master must have had his reasons for placing the Great World-Suppressing Steel in the Central Divine Continent. Moreover, he had summoned your Divine Sect's sacred ground. However, it was stolen in the Central Divine Continent. The thief was hiding near the Divine Sect's sacred ground. Perhaps he wanted to frame the Divine Sect's sacred ground and provoke a war between our two sacred grounds. For the safety of the two holy lands, I'll have to trouble you. Guyu Holy Sun said solemnly. Meng Hongying frowned and started pacing back and forth in the hall. After a while, Meng Hongying's eyes became determined. Guyu Holy Sun, don't worry. I will make the arrangements. As long as the Great World-Suppressing Steel is near the Divine Sect's sacred ground, I will definitely find it. All right. Guyu Holy Sun smiled. Purple Heart Villa. Yan Chuan slowly walked towards Little Tan Pier. A gentle and beautiful back was facing Yan Chuan. Facing the reflection in the pond, she gently combed her hair. Was Zizi. Zizi did not need to protect herself. She also did not need to worry about being attacked. In the divine sect's sacred ground, almost no one dared to offend Zizi. No one dared to come here. Even though Zizi was extremely beautiful and her purple hair added to her charm, in the face of Zizi's various mysteries, no matter how lustful he would be disheartened. Chapter 799. The saintess of the divine sect's sacred ground was revered by countless cultivators. Similarly, the loneliness of the past did not disappear because of power. Instead, it became even more intense. Looking at her beautiful face in the small pool, Zizi smiled quietly. Zizi's heart was not twisted because of this, because Zizi still wanted something to accompany her. That comb. Looking at the comb in her hand and then at her reflection in the pond, Zizi seemed to have returned to the past. A faint smile appeared on her face. She combed her hair just like how Yan Chuan had combed it himself that day. Yan Chuan? Zizi sighed in her heart. It's been 30 years. Is he still well? Zizi was disappointed. Now Yan Chuan was standing behind Zizi, quietly watching her. Yan Chuan had always been watching her quietly. Towards Zizi, Yan Chuan felt even more pity. Yan Chuan had been trying his best to help Zizi get rid of the curse on her body. He felt pity for Zizi. Therefore, the Empress only left Zhenrou on the investiture of the gods, not Zizi. However, when Yan Chuan recalled what had just happened, he realized that there wasn't just pity in his heart. It was as if there was something else. It's been 30 years. Is he still well? Zizi's casual words were like a catalyst, causing the strong tenderness in Yan Chuan's heart to quickly sublimate and change. Yan Chuan's heart trembled as if the softest part of his heart had been touched. Pity gave birth to love. At this moment, Yan Chuan realized that he had been too unfair to Zizi in the past. A sublimated love grew in his heart. He reached out and plucked a rose from the flower bed, placing it behind him. Zizi, I'm here. Yan Chuan called out softly. Zizi suddenly raised her head, but she did not turn around. Instead, she looked up and smiled bitterly. I'm hallucinating again. Zizi shook her head. Zizi, I'm really here. I'm here to pick you up. Yan Chuan called out again. Zizi's expression changed. Was it not a hallucination? He abruptly turned his head. Their eyes met, and the small comb in Zizi's hand suddenly slipped from her hand. Yan Chuan? Zizi asked in disbelief. I'm sorry I'm late. Yan Chuan handed over the rose and said softly. Zizi felt a lump in her throat and her eyes moistened. She turned around and wiped away her tears as she slowly got up. After she got up, her body trembled as she sobbed for a while. Only then did she wipe her tears and turn her head back. The two of them faced each other. How did you spend the past 30 years? Yan Chuan asked gently. I've thought about it for 30 years, looked forward to it for 30 years, resented it for 30 years and hated it for 30 years. Zizi sniffled and spoke with deep affection. I should have come earlier. I've wronged you. Yan Chuan blamed himself. There was a hint of guilt in his eyes. I'm not wronged. Because you gave me someone to think about, look forward to, resent, and hate. For 30 years I wasn't lonely. For 30 years I wasn't lonely. Zizi said with deep affection. At this moment, Zizi could no longer restrain herself. 30 years of longing made Zizi lose her restraint. She wanted to pour out all the longing in her heart at this moment. All of it. Zizi's emotions reached the peak at this moment. With Zizi's confession, Yan Chuan's love for her swelled. Looking at Zizi's confession, Yan Chuan's love also reached the peak. The rose in his hand looked so ridiculous. Throwing the rose away, Yan Chuan took a step forward. Under Zizi's surprised gaze, he picked her up and kissed her on the lips. Chapter 800. Zizi's eyes widened. She did not expect Yan Chuan to be so direct. However, she was instantly overwhelmed by the love in this kiss. She was immersed in this passionate kiss. Boom. There was a sudden explosion in the sky. Rolling dark clouds covered the sky and covered the earth. An extremely dense heavenly might instantly shrouded the Purple Heart Villa. The rolling dark clouds carried the vast heavenly might. Anyone who got within 6 meters of Zizi would have bad luck. Anyone who touched Zizi's hair would be punished by the heavens. At this moment, Yan Chuan hugged Zizi tightly and kissed her deeply. The heavenly might was furious. It came with the power to destroy the world. How could the fate of the wife of a Tao god be sullied by others? And now it was a deep kiss? How could this be? Rumble. The rolling dark clouds pressed down. The center of the rolling dark clouds was fiery red. The center of the rolling dark clouds was slowly rotating with a red light. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Countless cultivators in the divine sect's sacred ground were terrified. Heavenly wrath, this is heavenly wrath. What a strong heavenly wrath. This. The surrounding cultivators covered their heads and ran away in fear. Just the pressure of the heavenly might was enough to make countless cultivators tremble in fear. It was too terrifying. Not only were they terrified, but the heavenly might's pressure was still increasing. It was getting stronger and stronger. More and more cultivators looked at the sky above the Purple Heart Villa in horror. Outside the valley where the Purple Heart Villa was located, Kong Outyin, Jin Diyu, Huoguang, Tan Lang, and Feng Yinyang all looked at the sky in shock. What's going on? Jin Diyu frowned. No, could it be that Yan Chuan offended Saint Zizi? Yan Chuan was cursed? But this is too cruel. Kong Outyin exclaimed in shock. Kong Outyin could not imagine what Yan Chuan had done. It should be. Huoguang suddenly said. Everyone looked at Huoguang in confusion. Huoguang shook his head and did not want to say more. After all, this was Yan Chuan's matter. As an official, he could not slander the emperor. Will His Majesty be in danger? Feng Yinyang asked with a frown. Everyone frowned. Yan Chuan had personally asked everyone to leave. Now that Yan Chuan did not call them in, everyone hesitated. Hong. At the center of the swirling dark clouds, the first heavenly tribulation finally descended. It was a vast heavenly fire dragon. The fire dragon roared and opened its mouth, bringing with it the power to destroy the world. The fire dragon was surrounded by endless lightning, like a waterfall falling from the heavens. Under the fire dragon's lead, the lightning came rolling down. Under the might of the heavens, the wrath of the heavens could destroy the world. In all directions, the souls of countless cultivators trembled. Just the aftermath alone was enough to make countless cultivators jump wildly. Some were even instantly driven mad by this dragon of heavenly might. The fire dragon roared and charged towards Yan Chuan. The great destruction was imminent, but Yan Chuan still did not let go of Zizi. He still hugged Zizi and kissed her deeply. The heavens and earth lit up, a sea of lightning surged, and the fire dragon rushed towards Yan Chuan. Blue sky thunder clouds. Endless azure mist suddenly appeared around Yan Chuan. The azure mist immediately rushed towards the sea of lightning and the fire dragon. Rumble. The rolling lightning entered the blue sky thunder clouds and disappeared. The azure mist trembled as if it was struggling, but it still managed to block the fierce attack of the heavenly tribulation. It also ferociously absorbed the heat of the heavenly fire. Rumble. The deep kiss did not stop and the heavenly tribulation did not stop. The rolling sea of lightning and the fire dragon poured down, and endless shockwaves exploded in all directions. Countless mountains and rivers were blown to pieces, and many cultivators were caught in the crossfire. It was only because of a passionate kiss that no one complained about. Chapter 801. Lightning fell like a waterfall and fire dragons descended. The violent heaven's wrath destroyed a large number of mountains and rivers around Purple Heart Manor, implicating countless cultivators. But Purple Heart Manor was safe and sound. Huoguang and the others could not hide their worry. They took a step forward and looked at the entrance of the valley. Under the sea of lightning, a man and a woman were hugging each other passionately. Lightning bloomed in the surroundings and fire dragons roared in the surroundings. These two people did not seem to be in danger, but more like the danger was cheering for them. Looking at the two people hugging each other, Huoguang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Diyu, and Kong Outyin's faces stiffened and they quickly retreated. How is this possible? How is this possible? Why didn't they strike him to death? Kong Outyin muttered to himself. Just as he finished speaking, Kong Outyin knew that he had let it slip again. He secretly looked at the others and saw that they were looking at him with cold eyes. I didn't say anything. Kong Outyin immediately shouted. In the valley. Zizi gradually woke up from her daze. She suddenly relaxed and pushed Yan Chuan away. No! Zizi screamed. Zizi knew that her curse was too terrifying. Miao is not here again. It's over. She pushed Yan Chuan away in panic, but Yan Chuan grabbed Zizi's hands and did not let her go too far. Rumble. The rolling sea of lightning fell. Zizi's heart was filled with panic. She was afraid that something would happen to Yan Chuan. However, when the lightning fell, it strangely disappeared. Although there was a large amount of lightning, it did not seem to be able to hurt Yan Xuan. Seeing that Yan Xuan was safe, Zizi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. I said I'm lucky. You can't do anything to me. Don't worry. Yan Xuan said softly. Zizi bit her lips. She was still worried. Taking a deep breath, Yan Xuan said, come back with me and be my empress, okay? Empress? Zizi's expression was slightly dazed. It doesn't matter if it's our parents' order or our relationship. You have to go back with me. You're my wife. You can only follow me. Yan Xuan said firmly. I didn't say I wasn't going. Zizi pouted. Yan Xuan smiled and pulled Zizi into his arms again. Seeing that the lightning couldn't hurt Yan Xuan, Zizi didn't resist this time. East Divine Continent, Great Jin Dynasty, Yen Capital, above the Sea of Providence. The Golden Dragon of Providence roared again. The Sea of Providence clouds churned with monstrous waves. The Golden Dragon of Destiny seemed to be infinitely happy. Yifeng and Lu Gang walked out of the hall. How is this possible? I feel that Great Zhen has gained another member, and his position is even more honorable than ours? Lu Gang said in surprise. Lu Gang understood that they were the founding fathers of the country. It was impossible for anyone to surpass them after being conferred an official. He felt the same way a while ago. But today someone had surpassed him? Lord Lu, don't worry. His Majesty won't confer titles randomly. Everything depends on hard work. Yifeng said with a smile. But why do I feel that this newly conferred title is more honorable than ours? Lord Yi, you should be able to feel it. The Sea of Providence has a special arrangement for officials. But this feeling, the newly conferred title is more honorable than ours. Lu Gang said blankly. Lord Lu, you forgot about the 3 types of people. Yifeng said with a smile. Empress, Crown Prince, Princess. Do you think their titles will fall behind? Yifeng said with a smile. Ah. Lu Gang laughed awkwardly. Crown Prince and Princess aren't realistic. Great Jin should have a new empress. As for this empress, if I'm not wrong, you've seen her before. Yifeng said with a smile. Chapter 802. Lu Gang's pupils constricted as he suddenly thought of someone. The emperor is an extraordinary person. Lu Gang exclaimed. Zizi was someone that most people did not dare to approach. Even Lu Gang felt apprehensive when he saw her. But Yan Xuan insisted on marrying her? No, the emperor is an immortal. Yifeng corrected. Purple Heart Villa. Zizi, where's your golden mask? Yan Xuan asked curiously. Since you took it off, I'm not going to wear it anymore. In the past, no one could get within 2 zhang of me. Now that I've taken off the mask, I can get within 10 zhang. However, it's enough that you can get close to me. I don't need anyone else to get close to me. Zizi's eyes flashed with a hint of sweetness. Yan Xuan nodded. Why didn't the lightning hurt you? Zizi asked curiously. I can accept it. Yan Xuan said. Oh. Zizi nodded and did not ask any more questions. She just wanted to stay by Yan Xuan's side. Why did she need to ask so many questions? Something's not right. Yan Xuan raised his eyebrows. What's wrong? Zizi asked doubtfully. I might be about to break through. Yan Xuan's expression changed. Then you should go into seclusion first. Zizi said worriedly. No need. Help me keep a lookout and don't let anyone in. Alright, there's still Huo Guang and the others outside the valley. You should know them. Yan Xuan said. Zizi nodded. Zizi stepped out of the valley. Leaving Yan Xuan behind, he looked at the sky. In his Shinting acupoint, the thunderclouds in the sky sent an extremely strong signal. Heaven's wrath, heaven's wrath. Roar. Yan Xuan opened his mouth and rushed into the sky. A fierce suction force rushed into the sea of heavenly fire and lightning. Roar. Under the strong suction force, the fierce heavenly fire and lightning instantly poured into Yan Xuan's mouth. Like a whale swallowing the heavenly fire and lightning. Rumble. Countless amounts of energy poured into Yan Xuan, and countless amounts of lightning tempered Yan Xuan. However, the momentum of this tempering was too fierce. It was so ferocious that Yan Xuan's fleshly body almost couldn't bear it. However, the blue sky thunder cloud continued to absorb the heavenly tribulation clouds. In fact, it was even absorbing the heavenly tribulation clouds. Rumble. The clouds of heaven's wrath pressed down harder and harder, and the surroundings of the Purple Heart Villa had long been razed to the ground. Countless cultivators fled in all directions. Oh my God! Heavenly punishment? What kind of heavenly punishment is this? Help! Countless Xiozha fled in all directions in fear. Guang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Deyu and the others were also shocked. The cloud of heavenly wrath was slowly sinking. Correspondingly, the pressure was getting stronger and stronger, more and more terrifying. Let's go. I don't want to die yet. Yanchuan, what did he do? Kong Outyin shouted in fear. Shut up. Tan Lang shouted. Under the pressure of the heavenly tribulation, none of us will be able to escape. We are dead for sure. I saw Yanchuan hugging that god of calamity earlier. Now that the heavenly tribulation clouds is pressing down, he won't do that god of calamity, right? Oh my god, I don't want to die. Let me go. I don't want to die. Kong Outyin cried. Kong Outyin wanted to escape, but these people did not give him any chance. This was the first time Kong Outyin saw Yanchuan and he was horrified. He was so lustful that he did not care about his life. Everyone looked at the sky anxiously. However, Guang's eyes suddenly lit up. This scene was so familiar. I will go and save the emperor. Jin Deyu said worriedly. No, Lord Jin, perhaps nothing will happen. Guang guessed. Nothing will happen? Jin Deyu said in disbelief. Just as everyone was in a stalemate, ZZ stepped out of the valley. Chapter 803. God of Plagues. Kong Outyin retreated in fear, but was blocked by Tan Lang. Empress, is His Majesty all right? Guang asked worriedly. He's fine. Protect Yanchuan. ZZ said. All right. Guang nodded. I don't believe it. What if His Majesty is in danger? I want to see for myself. Jin Deyu said stubbornly. It would be too embarrassing if the emperor died right after joining Dezhen. Jin Deyu dashed forward. Feng Yinyang also ran to the entrance of the valley worriedly. At this moment, Kong Outyin only wanted to escape. He did not have the heart to investigate the situation. Tan Lang listened to Guang. Guang had already guessed what was going on, so he quickly looked around. Feng Yinyang and Jin Deyu dashed to the entrance of the valley. But the moment they rushed to the entrance of the valley, their worries disappeared and were replaced by a kind of dazed shock. Ah! The two of them looked into the valley in shock. Yanchuan was surrounded by endless thunderbolts. It was as though there were chains of thunderbolts trapping Yanchuan. But if one looked closely, they would realize that the lightning wasn't trapping Yanchuan, but was escaping. Unfortunately, Yanchuan opened his mouth and sucked them back. Swallowing lightning with his mouth was nothing. Jin Deyu and Feng Yinyang could still clearly see the rolling clouds of heaven's wrath pressing down. A corner of the heaven's wrath was directly aimed at Yanchuan's mouth. Yanchuan opened his mouth and roared. As lightning flashed in his eyes, the clouds of heaven's wrath were being swallowed by Yanchuan. Swallowing the clouds of heaven's wrath all by himself? That scene was a heavy blow to the minds of the two. How was this a human? This was a peerless demon god. No, even a peerless demon god wouldn't be this exaggerated. Was he swallowing the wrath of heaven's wrath? Oh my god, was this for real? Feng Yinyang and Jin Deyu's worldview was turned upside down. This. If the two of you are Yanchuan's subjects, you should scrupulously abide by your duties. Yanchuan asked you to guard the surroundings and protect him. Don't just stand here all the time, ZZ said faintly. Oh. The two of them immediately regained their senses. Yanchuan was fine, but the two of them were greatly shocked. He quickly left the mouth of the valley. They were guarding the surroundings to prevent any sneak attacks. After all, this scene was too shocking. When Jin Deyu first joined the Great Zhen Academy, it could be said that he was half coaxed and half forced. After all, Jin Deyu always thought that Yanchuan only had a stronger will and better luck than him, but his strength was no match for him. Of course, that was the truth. However, after seeing the scene just now, Jin Deyu no longer had such thoughts. What a joke, even the wrath of the heavens could be swallowed. Was this still considered weak? While Yanchuan was swallowing the wrath of the heavens, news of what happened at Purple Heart Villa spread out rapidly. This was a sensitive place to begin with, and there were many spies of various forces around. Meng Hongying's main hall. Meng Hongying was conversing with Guyu Holy Sun. Reporting, Holy Lady. Holy Lady. A cultivator entered the hall. What's wrong? Meng Hongying asked curiously. Holy Lady, the Purple Heart Villa is facing the wrath of the heavens. The cultivator reported. Wrath of the heavens? Meng Hongying's face changed. Guyu Holy Sun will talk later. Meng Hongying left Guyu Holy Sun behind and flew out of the main hall. Looking at Meng Hongying's departure, Guyu Holy Sun squinted his eyes. Wrath of the heavens? There's wrath of the heavens outside the god world? Could it be the great world-suppressing monument? No, I can't let go of any possibility. The Holy Lord sent me here because he trusts me. I can't screw this up. I have to be quick. Guyu Holy Sun narrowed his eyes and chased after Meng Hongying. On the other side, there was another main hall with the words 10th God Hall written on it. A cultivator ran over in a hurry. Chapter 804. The wrath of heaven descended upon Purple Heart Villa, and countless cultivators fled. Far away from the perimeter, the Xiozha who were safe turned back to look. The Purple Heart Villa had already been covered by the heavenly tribulation and was slowly sinking. No one knew what had happened, but they could feel their souls trembling from the vast power. High up in the sky, a storm was raging. No one dared to approach and no one knew what had happened. Swish! A red light flashed and Meng Hongying quickly flew over with a worried look on her face. Greetings, Saintess. Countless cultivators bowed respectfully. However, Meng Hongying ignored him. Instead, he stared at the rolling clouds of heavenly tribulation in the distance. Lightning and heavenly fire surged towards the Purple Heart Villa. Have you seen Saint Z? Meng Hongying asked a cultivator beside her. No. That person immediately replied. Meng Hongying's face darkened. She took a deep breath and headed toward the Purple Heart Villa. Saintess, don't. The crowd of cultivators Jiaohu shouted. However, Meng Hongying ignored him. Who? Suddenly, a golden light appeared in front of Meng Hongying. Jin Dayu appeared in an instant, stirring up the air currents. Of course, compared to the might of the heavenly wrath, it was much weaker. Halt! Jin Dayu said in a deep voice. Who are you? Meng Hongying glared at him. He was filled with anger. Behind him, Meng Hongying's 4 servants quickly flew over. Meng Hongying lashed out with her whip as if she was about to attack. Who? Immediately, ZZ flew into the sky. ZZ, are you alright? Meng Hongying was overjoyed. I'm fine. ZZ nodded. Jin Dayu took a look and quickly flew downwards, disappearing into the forest in the blink of an eye. He continued to protect Yan Xuan. Tell them to guard the surroundings. Don't let anyone in. ZZ said to Meng Hongying. Did you hear that? Meng Hongying looked at the 4 of them. Yes. The 4 servants immediately replied. ZZ brought Meng Hongying to the entrance of the Purple Heart Mountain Villa. At the entrance of the valley, Greed, along with Kong Outyin, Huoguang and Feng Yinyang, had all disappeared. Clearly they had gone to guard the surroundings to prevent any thieves from sneaking in. Saintess Red Embellishment, I've been kidnapped by Yan Xuan. Quick, save me. Kong Outyin exclaimed in surprise. Meng Hongying frowned as a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. She ignored him and looked at ZZ. Yan Xuan is here? Meng Hongying's expression changed slightly. And? ZZ's face revealed a sweet smile. Yan Xuan is inside the valley? Meng Hongying asked in surprise. The wrath of heaven is here. He's dealing with it. ZZ said. ZZ didn't mention Yan Xuan's breakthrough. She didn't want to. Meng Hongying had a complicated look on her face when she saw the heavenly wrath surging toward the Purple Heart Manor. Meng Hongying had already guessed what was going on. Meng Hongying had seen this kind of heavenly punishment before. Last time in the Carefree City, ZZ was assassinated by a lower void realm expert. At that time, it was the punishment of the heavens for hurting ZZ. However, what about this time? What kind of grudge would cause such a magnificent scene to appear again? What did Yan Xuan do to you? Meng Hongying asked curiously. He hugged me. ZZ's eyes flashed with happiness. Success. Meng Hongying finally understood what was going on with this magnificent heavenly punishment. But ordinary people wouldn't even dare to get close to ZZ. However, Yan Xuan hugged her. Moreover, Yan Xuan still dared to hug ZZ despite knowing that she was evil. If he hugged her, he would be punished by the heavens. However, Yan Xuan still hugged her. Chapter 805. For some reason, Meng Hongying was envious of Ziyan. Congratulations. Meng Hongying exclaimed sincerely. I've agreed to be his empress. I'll go home with him immediately. ZZ smiled. Home? Isn't this your home? Meng Hongying asked curiously. ZZ shook her head gently and revealed a blissful smile that Meng Hongying couldn't understand. This is just a place to stay. Home is when I'm with Yan Xuan. A place to stay? Oh. Meng Hongying was deeply touched. She looked at ZZ with deep envy. Rumble. More and more heaven's wrath flowed towards Purple Heart Villa. It took 6 hours for all the heaven's wrath to enter. The heaven's wrath had completely disappeared. At the same time, Feng Yinyang's voice came from outside the valley. Great mystifying fog array. Whoosh. Around the Purple Heart Villa, thick fog suddenly surged into the sky, covering the entire area, making it impossible for outsiders to see what was inside. However, they could see a faint beam of star intent descending from the sky. Star intent? Countless cultivators were curious. The star intent came from Yenchuan. In Purple Heart Villa. Yenchuan's skin cracked slightly and lightning arcs circled around him. He opened his mouth and swallowed the last bit of Heaven's Wrath Cloud. The Heaven's Wrath Cloud was too violent. It was so violent that his body couldn't withstand it. Yenchuan had no choice but to use all his strength and connect with the star intent to protect himself. Rumble. The lightning arcs around him kept cracking his skin, but under the star intent they kept shrinking. Yenchuan sat down with his legs crossed. The azure thundercloud in his body quickly swallowed the Heaven's Wrath Cloud. The azure thundercloud expanded and contracted. It was digesting the Heaven's Wrath Cloud. Every time it expanded and contracted, a powerful force rushed into Yenchuan's body. Boom. Tier 4 Divine State. Tier 5 Divine State. Tier 6 Divine State. Tier 7 Divine State. Tier 8 Divine State. Yenchuan's cultivation skyrocketed once more. With a speed that outsiders could not understand at all, he directly rushed to the 8th level of the Divine Realm before stopping. All the thunder and lightning around him had been absorbed by the blue sky thundercloud. Goyolo. The thunderclouds in the blue sky churned. Gradually it returned to its original state. It just looked a lot more exquisite. Yenchuan opened his eyes and dispersed the will of the stars. The 3rd level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yenchuan asked doubtfully. It doesn't seem to be any different. Yenchuan looked ahead and his expression suddenly became serious. Just like before, he shot a heavenly thunder at a small hill in front of him. Boom. A clap of thunder sounded. But there was no lightning? A gentle breeze blew past as if nothing had happened. Yenchuan revealed a trace of surprise. What's going on? The 1st level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture attracted heavenly tribulation and heavenly lightning. At the 2nd level, it was the heavenly shepherd tribulation. But at the 3rd level there was no more tribulation? Only one clap of thunder? Why was it that the more he trained, the weaker he became? Even the lightning was gone? Just as Yenchuan was puzzled, a strange change suddenly happened on the small hill. The original grass grew rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it was as tall as a person. On the small hill, a small tree that was as thick as an arm suddenly grew strangely. It grew taller and taller, thicker and thicker arms, thighs and waist. The plants grew crazily, inexplicably crazily. Yenchuan's eyelids twitched. This is? Yenchuan frowned deeply, thinking about why. After a while, Yenchuan's eyes suddenly lit up. Chapter 806. I understand now. I understand now. Lightning doesn't just represent destruction. I misunderstood. What lay represents should be life. In winter, all living things lay dormant, only waiting for the spring thunder to sound to command the world, and all living things would awaken. Spring thunder, all things grow. This is the first thunderbolt every year. Yenchuan's eyes flashed with surprise. Lightning and thunderstorms are only the most superficial manifestations of lightning. Is the heaven-devouring Tao scripture helping me understand the essence and origin of lightning? This was only the 3rd stage, spring lightning? Just what kind of cultivation technique is this heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yenchuan was incomparably shocked in his heart. Heaven mender? Dugu Budian once said that I was also a heaven mender? Could it be that he's talking about the heaven-devouring Tao scripture? Yenchuan's eyes suddenly focused. But the more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He knew that the heaven-devouring Tao scripture was far beyond what he had come into contact with in his previous life. Suppressing the shock in his heart, Yenchuan narrowed his eyes. Spring lightning? All things are born? He stretched out his left hand, revealing a seed birthmark on his left wrist. Poison ivy. Before I died in my previous life, I used the life-stealing poison, hoping to reincarnate with all the treasures from my previous life. Inside the sky-burying coffin, there were many treasures buried with me, but only you reincarnated with me. It can be seen that your spirituality is much greater than the other treasures. After sleeping for so many years, we will use the spring lightning to awaken you. Yenchuan said with a serious look in his eyes. With a slight pressure, the birthmark slowly floated out of Yenchuan's arm. Spring thunder, all things grow. Facing the germinating seed, Yenchuan once again cast spring thunder. Boom. When the spring thunder struck, the seed suddenly trembled violently. Boom. A large number of vines shot out from the seed like tentacles, quickly emerging and growing. Chi. The two vines instantly pierced into the ground. Poison Ivy's body rapidly grew. At this moment, countless vegetation in the valley began to rapidly wither. The large trees and grass that had just grown rapidly also rapidly withered, as if their lives had been sucked out by the vine. Ka. The earth was turning into sand, and the essence of the earth was being extracted by the vines. Bang! Bang! In the valley, more and more vines emerged from the ground. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of vines covered the entire valley. Moreover, they were getting thicker and more numerous. The desertified land spread out in all directions, extending out of the valley. In the distance, the forests withered and the earth turned into sand. What's going on? Meng Hongying exclaimed. Everyone quickly floated up. With Feng Yinyang's formation covering them, the outside world couldn't see what was happening inside. After a long while, the expansion of the desertified land finally stopped. In the valley, countless vines covered the sky, wrapping Yanchuan within. In the center of the sea of vines, a monster appeared in front of Yanchuan. It was a humanoid monster, but its body was made of plant roots. Its arms and legs were made of vines, and there were vines on its head. It controlled the sea of vines. Above its head was a pair of dark eyes. He seemed to be at a loss. It had some spirituality, but it lacked intelligence. Poison Ivy, you have finally recovered the strength of your previous life. Yanchuan said excitedly. The humanoid Poison Ivy quickly wrapped around Yanchuan and rubbed against Yanchuan, as though he was trying to curry favor with his master. No, you have evolved more than in your previous life. Don't move. There are a few words on your chest this time. Yanchuan immediately looked at Poison Ivy's chest in surprise. In front of Poison Ivy's chest, there was a line of words that seemed to have been formed by nature. Unparalleled Divine Weapon Vine Demon, 7th. Yanchuan read the words on Poison Ivy's chest. Chapter 807. Outside Purple Heart Villa. Guyu Holy Sun stood among the crowd, frowning as he looked at the foggy Purple Heart Villa in the distance. Guyu Holy Sun arrived quickly. Before Meng Hongying arrived, Guyu Holy Sun had already hidden among the crowd. He saw some of it but could not be sure that it was the great world-suppressing monument. Guyu Holy Sun watched quietly as the crowd discussed. In Purple Heart Villa, countless vines retracted back into the humanoid Vine Demon's body. Vine Demon of the Peerless Divine Weapon? 7th? Yanchuan looked at the Vine Demon in confusion. Peerless Divine Weapon? It seems that you were created by a powerful immortal. Peerless Divine Weapon? Your 7th? Are there more? Yanchuan frowned in surprise. Yeah. The humanoid Vine Demon shrunk rapidly and turned into a ginseng. It circled Yanchuan for a while and finally rubbed against Yanchuan's arm. No matter how you came to be, since you're already mine, Yanchuan, you're mine. Vine Demon? Since you're called Vine Demon, I'll call you Vine Demon from now on. Yanchuan nodded in satisfaction. Yeah. The Vine Demon cried out happily and shrunk again. It went into Yanchuan's left wrist and formed a root pattern. Peerless Divine Weapon? Yanchuan was delighted. Not only was he not injured by the heavenly punishment, but his cultivation had also increased to Tier 8 of the Divine Realm. The heaven-devouring Tao scripture had also increased to Tier 3. The Vine Demon had also evolved to the state of his previous life. Yanchuan was in a good mood. He waved his sleeves and walked out of the valley. The valley had completely turned into sand, but Yanchuan did not care. He saw ZZ and Meng Hongying as soon as he walked out of the valley. ZZ's eyes flashed with worry while Meng Hongying's eyes flashed with a complicated look. Saintess Hongying. We meet again. Yanchuan smiled. Umph. Meng Hongying snorted coldly. Apparently, she still couldn't let go of Yanchuan's sincerity that day at the hot spring. Or perhaps she still didn't treat him nicely because of her modesty. Are you done? ZZ asked worriedly. Everything is fine. Yanchuan nodded. At this time Jin Dayu, Feng Yinyang and Ho Guang also returned. Jin Dayu's cultivation was 2 realms higher than Yanchuan's. Naturally, he could tell that Yanchuan's cultivation was at the 8th tier of the God realm. Jin Dayu's jaw dropped. Was this a joke? His cultivation was growing too fast. ZZ, it's time for us to leave. Yanchuan said. Yes. ZZ nodded. He's leaving just like that? Meng Hongying suddenly felt a sense of melancholy. I'm going home. ZZ smiled. Should I inform grandfather? Meng Hongying said all of a sudden. There's no need. I've been here for more than 30 years and I've never seen him. It doesn't matter if I don't see him now. Zizi shook her head. All right. Meng Hongying nodded. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Outyin. Outyin, holy son, regardless of the grudges between our parents, you and I are connected by blood. Once we're out of the arcane sacred grounds, we'll let you go immediately. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Ah, good. All right, I wish you two a long, long life. Kong Outyin said excitedly. Yan Chuan waved at Feng Yinyang. Feng Yinyang nodded and a white light shot up into the sky. Whoosh! The white light shot up into the sky as if it was a signal. The fog around them slowly dispersed. As the fog dispersed, the deserted ground was exposed. What's going on? Purple Heart Villa has turned into a desert? Ah, that's Holy Daughter Z. The man beside her is standing so close to her. Does he want to die? Chapter 808. Countless cultivators were in a heated discussion. Guyu Holy Sun squinted his eyes in the distant crowd. Yan Chuan. Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened slightly. Guyu Holy Sun had suffered a lot in the hands of Yan Chuan. He looked at Yan Chuan gloomily with exceptionally cold eyes. Just when many people were surprised, a flying boat suddenly flew over from afar and landed near Yan Chuan. Saintess Hongying, farewell. Yan Chuan led the crowd to bid farewell. Meng Hongying did not know why, but she still nodded her head calmly. Want to leave? Suddenly, a furious roar exploded in the void. Father, I'm here. Kong Outyin shouted excitedly. Whoosh! 10 figures abruptly appeared in the sky, and 9 of them were precisely the 9 void stage experts that had followed Yan Chuan for a few months, whereas the one in the lead wore a black robe, had a fair face and his eyes emitted a faint light. Kong Xianshui. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Last time it was the Merit Dharma Laksana. This time it was his real body. If it was before, even if Kong Outyin was in his hands, Yan Chuan would be slightly worried. But now, with the resurrection of the Vine Demon, Yan Chuan finally had something to rely on. Greetings, Blooming Water Palace Master. Shouts came from all directions. Kong Xianshui looked coldly at the crowd in front of the flying boat. You still dare to come back? Kong Xianshui said coldly. I didn't expect that Palace Master Kong would come out to see me off while refining treasures in seclusion. Yan Chuan said with a smile. See you off? Aha, leave your imperial seal and let my son go. Seeing that you are Kong Susu's son, I'll spare your life. Get out of the holy ground of the archaic sect. Kong Xianshui shouted coldly. Haha, my imperial seal? Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan's attitude. If I want to leave, no one can stop me. If you want my imperial seal, come to Dezhen. Yan Chuan said coldly. Huh. Kong Xianshui narrowed his eyes and released a powerful aura towards the crowd. Jin Dayu took a step forward, and a ferocious aura gushed forth. But in the end, his cultivation base was weaker than Kong Xianshui's, and he couldn't gain the upper hand in terms of aura. Blooming Water Palace Master, why are you doing this? Meng Hongying suddenly stepped forward and shouted. Hongying, he is an outsider who kidnapped the Holy Sun. Why are you defending him? Kong Xianshui retorted coldly. They're just worried that the Blooming Water Hall Master isn't willing to let go. I believe in Yan Chuan's character. He said that he would release Proud Heaven's Holy Sun as soon as it is safe. Meng Hongying said. But I don't believe it. Kong Xianshui shook his head. If you don't believe it, I can go with them. After we leave the Archaean sect, I will bring Proud Heaven's Holy Sun back. What do you think? Meng Hongying said with a frown. I don't want to trouble you with my business. Kong Xianshui refused to give up. You. Meng Hongying's face darkened. Yan Chuan looked at Kong Xianshui and said with a faint smile, Kong Xianshui, level 1 upper void stage. You just reached the upper void stage not long ago, right? Kong Xianshui narrowed his eyes. Zizi, let's go. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Go. You can't go. Kong Xianshui's face darkened. His body swayed and he instantly grabbed at Yan Chuan. Boom. In the desert, a huge rattan as thick as a water bucket suddenly shot up into the sky. It was like a dragon and it was swung at Kong Xianshui. Boom. Under the huge impact, a storm was set off, blowing the surrounding sandstorm into the sky. Kong Xianshui paused. His eyes flashed with surprise. Chapter 809. Kong Xianshui was not the only one. Almost everyone who knew Yan Chuan was shocked. The vines retreated back into the desert. No one knew where the vines came from, but they all knew that Yin Chuan had stopped Kong Xianshui. The ancient moon holy sun gaped at this scene in shock. Jin Deyu looked at Yin Chuan with admiration. At this moment, Jin Deyu no longer had any doubts about Yin Chuan's strength. How is that possible? Kong Xianshui was in disbelief. Father, don't worry. I will be back soon. Kong Outyin shouted. Although Kong Outyin was a lawless person, he still had a strong father-son relationship with his father. Did Kong Outyin notice that his father had not gained any advantage from the previous attack? What if his father was injured? No, I must save you. Kong Xianshui shook his head and said. Yin Chuan looked at Kong Xianshui and said with a smile, Tan Lang, let Kong Outyin go. Tan Lang was stunned. Everyone looked at Yin Chuan in confusion. Let Kong Outyin go? However, when they thought of the whip, they calmed down. Yes. Tan Lang immediately let Kong Outyin go. Kong Outyin felt quite shocked and flew away from Yin Chuan in confusion. Father? I'm free. Kong Outyin said excitedly. Kong Xianshui looked at Yin Chuan in confusion. Yin Chuan said indifferently, it's fine if I didn't know about Kong Outyin's bloodline, but since I know that Kong Outyin is related to me by blood, I, Yin Chuan, have no reason to use my relative as a hostage. If my son doesn't betray me, I won't betray him. If my son doesn't betray me, I will not betray him? Kong Outyin looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression. Did Yin Chuan mean that if you didn't do anything to me, I wouldn't do anything to you because we are relatives? Kong Outyin hated Yin Chuan, but at this moment he had mixed feelings. ZZ, let's go. Yin Chuan said to ZZ. Yes. ZZ nodded. Don't go. Kong Xianshui shouted. What? You still haven't given up on my imperial seal? Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Kong Xianshui's expression was complicated. Finally he said in a low voice, since you let my son go as his uncle, I don't want your imperial seal. You can go but... She's not allowed to leave. Kong Xianshui pointed at ZZ coldly. ZZ? Not allowed to leave? ZZ's eyes darkened. Yin Chuan stood in front of ZZ, his face cold. Blooming Water Hall Master Saint Z was conferred by my grandfather. You can't control her. Meng Hongying shouted again. Father, what are you doing? Let them go. Kong Outyin shouted in confusion. Father is doing this for your own good. Kong Xianshui frowned. Ah? For my own good? I don't want to. Father, she and Yin Chuan are husband and wife. Why do you want to keep her? Kong Outyin suddenly shouted. Husband and wife? Yin Chuan doesn't deserve her. Her husband can only be you. Kong Xianshui said in a deep voice. I don't want to. I don't want to be a plague. Father, I don't want to. Kong Outyin exclaimed. The surrounding people. Was there an internal conflict between the father and son? Slap. Kong Xianshui slapped Kong Outyin's face. After the slap, Kong Xianshui regretted it. It was also the first time that Kong Outyin was slapped by his father. He covered his mouth, his eyes filled with disbelief and tears gushed out. Father, you hit me. Sob, sob, mother, father hit me. Kong Outyin cried. The surrounding cultivators were speechless. Kong Outyin's temperament was too exaggerated. Now he was crying for his dead mother? Kong Xianshui persuaded in a low voice, Outyin, how could I harm you? Do you know what ZZ's fate is? In order to give birth to this fate, I've done many things to make ZZ's parents marry each other. It's all for you, for you. Kong Xianshui controlled his voice so that others couldn't hear him. They all thought that Kong Xianshui was comforting his son. With such a father, many cultivators were envious. For me? Kong Outyin wiped his tears and asked in confusion. That's right. You also have a special physique. When I found out about your physique, I spent a lot of effort to find the fate of ZZ's parents. You must get her. My son will become the pride of the Kong family. Those old guys will support Kong Imoku. Emperor Imoku? My son's future achievements will not be inferior to his. Kong Xianshui comforted in a low voice. Chapter 8:10. While Kong Xianshui was persuading his son, Yin Chuan ordered ZZ, Huaguang and the rest to board the airship. Kong Xianshui glanced at the airship and said angrily, I said no one is allowed to leave. Whoosh. A powerful aura spread out and blocked the airship. Yin Chuan walked behind Kong Xianshui and said coldly, Hallmaster Kong, are you suppressing some kind of treasure? Kong Xianshui's face darkened. Your attack just now was not at the level of an upper void realm cultivator. You can't stop us if you don't give up on suppressing the treasure. ZZ is my wife. No one can stop me if I want to take her away. Yin Chuan said. Ridiculous. You think you can stop me just because you have a pseudo-immortal weapon? So what if it's a pseudo-immortal weapon? You can't control it? Kong Xinshui said coldly. You can give it a try. Yin Chuan's eyes were cold as he refused to back down. Kong Xinshui shouted at the 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators. As he spoke, Kong Xinshui slapped out with his palm. A gigantic black palm print pressed down on Yin Chuan. The sea of sand seemed to have exploded. A dragon-shaped giant vine rushed out from the sea of sand and swung at the black handprint. Boom. The giant vine smashed the giant handprint and slashed at Kong Xinshui. Kong Xinshui narrowed his eyes and reached out his hand to grab the sky. Boom. A huge handprint caught the dragon-shaped giant vine. Kong Xinshui restrained the giant vine in an instant. He clenched his fist and the giant vine was suddenly deformed. He was proud of himself. Suddenly, the sea of sand exploded again. 3 dragon-shaped giant vines rushed out from the sea of sand and swung at Kong Xinshui. There are more? Kong Xinshui's face changed. 3 giant vines swung at Kong Xinshui. Yin Chuan also had a giant vine under his feet. Yin Chuan floated up slowly. The 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators rushed at the airship. Let's see who dares to come. ZZ suddenly took a step forward, a trace of gloominess flashing in her eyes. The 9 Middle Void Stage experts' complexions changed and their bodies came to a halt. They were well aware of how terrifying ZZ was. One of the Middle Void Stage cultivators had even personally experienced it. That was a Middle Void Stage cultivator. After he had contradicted ZZ, he had been unlucky for more than a month. Even his loving wife had eloped with a mortal. It was a great humiliation and an eternal nightmare. Now that ZZ had taken a step forward, the 9 intermediate void stage experts didn't dare to take a step forward. This Saint Lady ZZ was too strange. Boom. On the other side, the 3 vines collided with Kong Xinshui. Kong Xinshui struck out 3 palms and blocked the 3 giant vines. However, Kong Xinshui's step of capturing Yin Chuan was stopped instantly. Hallmaster Kong, take out the treasure that you're suppressing. Otherwise, you won't be able to stop me today. I can see that at least 70% of your strength is suppressing that treasure. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Kong Xinshui looked coldly at Yin Chuan and then at ZZ. His eyes were filled with uncertainty. That's right. If you don't take it out, I can't do anything to you. If you take it out, I can only use it once. In that case, I'll take out ZZ's birth chart. Kong Xinshui said coldly. What did you say? Yin Chuan's eyes turned cold. Everyone only had one birth chart. If one's birth chart was taken out, he would definitely die. I'm the one who brought ZZ into this world. Without me, her parents wouldn't have gotten married. Her birth chart is mine. Kong Xinshui said coldly. Chapter 8:11. Meng Hongying's expression changed. Hallmaster Kong, what did you say? You're the one who facilitated the marriage of ZZ's parents? They're both members of the Meng family. The marriage of a brother and sister is intolerable in the secular world. Grandfather is under a lot of pressure because of this. So, you're the one who facilitated it. Kong Xuanshui's eyes turned cold. My grandfather won't let you off for meddling in the affairs of the Meng family. Guishan Hall? It's useless even if you're the Guishan Hall master. Meng Hongying rebuked angrily. Do you think I care? Kong Xinshui said coldly. Meng Hongying's eyelids twitched. She saw madness in Kong Xuanshui's eyes. Kong Xinshui was willing to give up the position of Guishan Hall master for ZZ's birth chart? Kong Xinshui stared at Yin Chuan. Since you want to see my full strength, then go ahead. That treasure is really good to use against you. None of you can leave. Kong Xinshui said coldly. Kong Xinshui reached out and took out a black treasure from his sleeve. The treasure grew bigger and bigger. It was surrounded by black water. Kong Xinshui kept injecting black energy into the treasure to suppress it. Before the treasure appeared, Yin Chuan could already feel a strong poisonous aura. Rumble. The black water slowly retreated. The poisonous aura swept in all directions. Countless cultivators were suppressed to the point that they couldn't breathe. The poisonous aura was even more terrifying than the divine punishment from before. Yin Chuan's eyes turned serious. ZZ stood beside Yin Chuan worriedly. Yin Chuan immediately shielded ZZ behind him. The desert below Yin Chuan's feet moved. More and more giant vines lurked out from below. Yin Chuan was waiting for the right moment. What a powerful poisonous aura! Jin Dayu said in shock. The black water slowly retreated, revealing a huge stone tablet. There were 4 words on it: Great Boundary Suppressing Steel. Great Boundary Suppressing Steel? Meng Hongying exclaimed. Kang Xianshui said coldly, "That's right, the Great Stabilizing Boundary Monument. I took it for ZZ's fate. It's a powerful treasure. I haven't been able to refine it for a few years, but it's the only thing that can protect ZZ's fate. It's mine, nobody can touch it." Feel the Great Suppressing World Steel. Kang Xianshui sneered. The huge stone tablet fell from the sky and pressed down. Boom. The void wrinkled as if a hurricane was pressing down. The Great World Suppressing Steel stirred up a boundless sandstorm. The Great Heavenly Seal. Yin Chuan's face sank, and the Imperial Seal soared into the sky. Hong. The Great Heavenly Seal and Great World Suppressing Steel collided loudly. A gust of wind suddenly blew in all directions. Although the Great Heavenly Seal's materials were strong, it was a pity that Yin Chuan's strength was ultimately too weak. Ka. The Great Heavenly Imperial Seal was slowly being pressed down. Boom. 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 In the desert, 9 huge vines suddenly shot up into the sky and blocked the Great Heavenly Seal. Unfortunately, the Great World Suppressing Steel was too powerful. The Great Heavenly Seal was still being pressed down slowly. More importantly, there was a poisonous aura that was directed at everyone. For a moment, Meng Hongying, Jin Dayu, and the others found it difficult to move. As the Great World Suppressing Steel sank, the suppression around them increased by 10%. What's wrong? Meng Hongying was shocked. The Great World Suppressing Steel is activated by me, an upper void stage martial artist. You won't be able to break free. Kang Xuanshui's eyes flashed maliciously. Rise. Yin Chuan shouted angrily. Chapter 8:12. Boom. 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 Suddenly, 100 huge vines shot out of the desert, heading straight for the Great Heavenly Seal. The Great Heavenly Seal's descent stopped abruptly. Boom. The Great Heavenly Seal was no longer sinking. Kang Xuanshui's face darkened. You have a lot of treasures? It's a pity that you don't deserve to have them. Kang Xuanshui's eyes flashed with greed. Be it the Great Heavenly Seal or the giant vines, Kang Xianshui could tell that they were extraordinary. Otherwise, how could they stop the Great World Suppressing Monument? Just as Kang Xianshui was about to strike again, "How dare you, Kang Xianshui?" someone shouted from afar. Kang Xianshui turned around. It was Guyu Holy Sun. He held a scroll in his hand and looked at Kang Xianshui with a gloomy face. Guyu Holy Sun? Kang Xuanshui's face changed. How dare you, Kang Xianshui? The Great Revelation Saint Lord placed the Great World Suppressing Monument. How dare you touch it? Guyu Holy Sun shouted. Kang Xuanshui's face changed. How is this possible? How can it be so fast? How does Jingming know about it? Kang Xianshui panicked. This is the decree of the Great Saint Lord. Kang Xianshui, hand over the Great World Suppressing Monument and surrender. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. Guyu Holy Sun wanted to wait until Yin Chuan was at a disadvantage. However, the Great Heavenly Seal and the Great World Suppressing Monument were in a stalemate. Guyu Holy Sun did not dare to wait. If anything happened to the Great World Suppressing Monument, the Great Saint Lord would blame him. He had no choice but to shout. Yin Chuan looked into the distance in shock. When Guyu Holy Sun took out the decree, Kang Xianshui panicked. Was he panicking? He was an upper void stage expert and the temple master of the divine sect's holy land. Why would he panic? It seems like I can't hide it from them. Jingming? Jingming? What a powerful technique. Hand over the Great World Suppressing Monument? No, I'm about to succeed. I must get the purple birth chart. I must. Kang Xianshui said with a hint of madness. Jingming was hundreds of millions of miles away, and ZZ's fate was right in front of him. How could he give it up? How could he give up now? Wait a little longer. After I obtain ZZ's fate, I will put the Great World Suppressing Steel back to its original place. At that time, I will go to the Great Revelation Sacred Ground to ask for forgiveness. Kang Xianshui shouted. Guyu Holy Sun sneered. Ask for forgiveness? It was too late. Who in the world would dare to touch the Saint Lord's belongings? You're the only one who doesn't know what death is. The Holy Lord has decreed that whoever steals the tablet will be executed on the spot. Anyone who dares to resist will have their entire family wiped out. Guyu Holy Sun shouted coldly. Tablet robbers executed on the spot? Anyone who dares to resist will have their entire family wiped out? No, Jingming, she won't let me live? She didn't even leave him a way out. Kang Xianshui panicked. This kind of panic made Yin Chuan very confused. The world was so big. If you can't beat Jingming, can't you just run away? Why was he so afraid? Was Jingming really that scary? Millions of miles away, just a name, and you're so scared? You're at the upper void realm, can't you have some backbone? Kong Xianshui, hurry up and accept the decree. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. As soon as Guyu Holy Sun shouted, Kong Xuanshui's face was filled with sorrow. He then looked at Kong Outyin. Father? Kong Outyin was confused as to why his father was panicking. Seeing his son, Kong Xuanshui's face was filled with love. Then his eyes narrowed. If Jingming says so, I will definitely die. Outyin, before I die, I will do something for you. I will help you obtain ZZ's fate. Kong Xianshui said solemnly. Father? What's wrong? Kong Outyin asked in panic. Kong Xianshui did not say a word. Instead, a large amount of black gas gushed out from his body and a large amount of merits surrounded him. Great World Suppressing Steel, suppress. Kong Xianshui used all his strength to activate the Great World Suppressing Steel. A powerful force pressed against the Great Heavenly Seal. How dare you? Suddenly, a woman's cold shout came from the void. Her voice was filled with arrogance. This shout caused the hearts of countless cultivators in the surroundings to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators were even forced to their knees by this domineering shout. Chapter 8:13. How dare you? Above the void, a woman's cold voice was heard. Her voice was filled with a domineering aura. This shout caused the hearts of countless cultivators in the surroundings to tremble. Some of the weaker cultivators were even forced to their knees by this domineering shout. Buzz. The great suppressing boundary steel trembled as if it was responding to the voice. Just the voice alone was enough to make everyone's heart tremble. Yan Chuan raised his head. His pupils shrunk. Kong Xianshui was even more panic-stricken. This voice? Others might not know, but Kong Xianshui had heard of it before. Jingming? Jingming's voice? Jingming was here? Kong Xianshui was shocked. He turned his head to look. The voice came from Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun had already kneeled down. The decree in his hand floated in the air. The voice came from the decree. The decree slowly floated in the air, and the golden decree slowly unfolded. After unfolding, there were no words on the decree, only a royal seal. On the seal were the words, "Blessed by the heavens, long life and prosperity." Blessed by the heavens, long life and prosperity? Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. These words were the imperial seal of the world, the imperial seal of the emperor. But Jingming was the lord of the Holy Land, not the emperor? Why did she use the imperial seal? Greetings, great sacred lord. Countless cultivators bowed. The decree floated in the air and the great suppressing boundary steel was no longer under Kong Xuanshui's control. Kong Xianshui panicked. Looking at the decree, his face was pale and bloodless. Holy Land of Divine Sect, Gui Shui Palace Lord, Kong Xianshui, greets great sacred lord. Kong Xianshui said respectfully. Humph, when I placed the great suppressing boundary steel, I had already announced it to the world. Kong Xianshui, you dare to go against my will? The decree said coldly. The voice was filled with majesty. It was a domineering aura. Kong Xianshui panicked and said, Great sacred lord, I was impulsive. Please be lenient. You knowingly committed a crime. Seeing that you are remorseful, I will be lenient. You kill yourself. The decree floated in the air and said, You kill yourself? The tone was as if it was a great favor. But at this moment, countless people were shocked. Kong Xianshui was at the upper void stage. Even if he was at the first level of the upper void stage, he was still at the upper void stage. Jingming asked him to kill himself? Kill himself? Even Yan Chuan could feel Jingming's domineering aura. Hundreds of millions of miles away, a decree came, and an upper void stage cultivator was asked to commit suicide? How domineering was that? Father. Kong Outyin panicked. Kong Xianshui. Reaching out his hand, Kong Xianshui took out a jade slip and shoved it into Kong Outyin's hand. Scram. It's all because of you, you unfilial son. I wouldn't have fallen to such a state. Kong Xianshui shouted. Father. What are you waiting for? I'm not leaving. You guys take this bastard away. Even if I die, I don't want to see him. Kong Xianshui shouted at the Middle Void Realm cultivators. Yes. The Middle Void Realm cultivators replied. Kong Xianshui Xiong Outyin? He was protecting Kong Outyin. The 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators grabbed Kong Outyin and flew away quickly. Father. Father. Kong Outyin shouted. But how could he be a match for the 9 Middle Void Realm cultivators? They disappeared in the blink of an eye. The decree said again, "Your bloodline is gone. Kang Xianshui, why don't you kill yourself?" Chapter 8:14. Jing Ming was forcing Kang Xianshui to commit suicide? Countless cultivators looked at the sky, but no one dared to say anything. No one from the divine sects and sacred grounds came out to stop them. The title of the strongest person in the world was so powerful. Kang Xianshui looked at the decree and his expression changed. "Great Sacred Lord, Kang Xianshui knows your name and I have seen your methods. Commit suicide?" Kang Xianshui does not dare to resist, but in the face of life and death, I have to fight for it. Kang Xianshui said to the decree. Jing Ming's angry snort came from the decree. "Sorry." Kang Xianshui shouted. Whoosh. Then Kang Xianshui did not dare to hesitate. He took a step forward and rushed in the opposite direction of Kang Outyen. Run. Kang Xianshui could not resist when he was asked to commit suicide. In the face of death, Kang Xianshui could only choose to run, even if he had to hide in a corner. Whoosh. The speed of an upper void realm expert was astonishing. He turned into a stream of light and reached the horizon. "In front of my decree, you think you can run?" Jing Ming's cold snort came from the decree, and the decree suddenly burst out with a dazzling golden light. Bang! It was like a sun, illuminating everything in the world. Yan Chuan saw clearly that under the endless light, a golden palm reached out from the decree, and grabbed at the direction where Kang Xianshui was running. As soon as the golden palm struck out, its power was immense. If the heavenly retribution's aura was strong before, then this palm's aura was 10 times stronger. Under this aura, countless cultivators were frightened from the bottom of their hearts. A large number of cultivators knelt down. Boom! The palm reached into the horizon and grabbed the escaping Kang Xianshui. No, this is just a decree. How can you catch me from 10,000 miles away? Can you catch me from the great sacred ground from billions of miles away? No. Kang Xianshui's voice came from the horizon. His voice was filled with endless sorrow and hatred. "Those who go against my decree die." An angry roar came from the void. Rumble. In the horizon, an extremely intense flame rushed to the sky, as if another sun had risen from the horizon. The giant palm turned into a sun and trapped Kang Xianshui. Ah! Kang Xianshui's miserable scream came from the horizon. The faces of countless cultivators twitched as if they could not believe what they saw. They also felt even more reverence for the great light holy master, who was billions of kilometers away. Yan Chuan raised his eyebrows. He was also surprised. Jing Ming's means were completely out of his expectation. How could he kill Kang Xianshui with just a decree from hundreds of millions of miles away? Even in Yan Chuan's previous life, he hadn't been able to achieve this level of strength. The most powerful person in the world? Jing Ming? For the first time, Yan Chuan paid attention to Jing Ming. It was the grand sun primordial flame that burned Kang Xianshui? Jin Deyu's expression changed. Kang Xianshui's blood-curdling screams didn't stop for a full breath of time. Boom! The flames in the distance dispersed, and Kang Xianshui turned into ashes. Unable to resist. In front of Jing Ting, even an upper void stage expert was unable to resist? In the distance, Guyu Holy Sun's eyes flashed with endless worship. The golden light dissipated. The decree was still floating in the sky. Yan Chuan kept the great heavenly seal and the giant vine at the right time. The decree was high up in the sky and suddenly faced the west. The divine world of the divine sect's sacred ground? Everyone in the divine world, listen up. Put the great boundary suppressing steel back where it was. If anyone steals it again, I will wash the divine sect's sacred ground with blood. The surrounding cultivators were stunned. Was this a threat? Wash the divine sect's sacred ground with blood? That was too overbearing. In the west, the void trembled slightly in response to Jing Ting's words. Don't worry, Holy Master Jing. My sect will send people to guard you. The great boundary-suppressing steel will never be stolen again. An old voice came from the divine world. Jing Ting's voice sounded satisfied. Guyu. Jing Ting's voice came from the decree. Present. Guyu Holy Sun said respectfully. Put the great boundary-suppressing steel back where it was and put this decree aside. Jing Ting's voice said. Yes, Your Majesty. Guyu Holy Sun said respectfully. The decree slowly floated to Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun received it respectfully. At the same time, he flew carefully toward the great boundary-suppressing steel and grabbed it. Jing Ting's aura disappeared, but the surrounding cultivators were still in a daze. Many of them even forgot to get up from their kneeling. Jing Ting had just threatened the entire divine sect's sacred ground, but none of the divine world's experts had any thoughts of resistance? They had even guaranteed it again and again? Jing Ting's prestige was too strong. The divine sect's sacred ground and the Dazhao sacred ground should be on the same level. Why did it seem like the Dazhao sacred ground was superior? Everyone was shocked, but no one dared to say anything. The scene just now still shocked everyone. The divine sect's palace master had been killed by Jing Ting in front of his home, but no one in the divine world dared to stand up for him? The strongest person in the world? Not to mention the countless kneeling cultivators, even Yan Chuan and his group were extremely shocked. How domineering! Meng Hongying's eyes flashed with shock. Yan Chuan was the same, but Yan Chuan was more excited. An inexplicable excitement. An expert? An expert could not suppress Yan Chuan's ambition. On the contrary, it could stimulate Yan Chuan's ambition. One day he would be able to make all sects submit to him with a single command. Hiding the determination in his eyes, Yan Chuan looked at Zizi and said, "Let's go. Let's continue our journey." Zizi nodded. Everyone slowly boarded the flying boat. "Saintess Hongying will meet again," Yan Chuan said to Meng Hongying. Meng Hongying looked at everyone and felt a little disappointed, but she still nodded calmly. The flying boat rose into the air and flew slowly towards the East Divine Continent. At this moment, no one could stop them. "Father, father." In a forest far away, Kong Outyin cried out in grief. "Young master, the old master has passed away. Please don't be sad," a Middle Void Realm elder said. "Young master? My father is dead. Will you still protect me? I have offended all of you in the past." Kong Outyin looked at everyone. After being kidnapped by Yan Chuan for a period of time, Kong Outyin's playboy nature had been beaten down. Now that his father was dead, Kong Outyin was even more terrified. The 9 of them suddenly knelt down on one knee in front of Kong Outyin. "Young master, although we are from the 10th God Hall, we have another identity. We are the servants of the Kong family, responsible for the rise of the young master's bloodline. The old master is dead. From now on you are the new master." The leading elder said solemnly. "We pledge our lives to protect the young master." Everyone shouted in unison. "The Kong family? Is the Kong family powerful?" Kong Outyin wiped his tears and said. Chapter 8:15. 1 year later in a forest, Zizi Huaguang, Jin Deyu and Feng Yinyang were guarding the area. In the center, Yan Chuan was facing the rolling heavenly wrath. He opened his mouth and swallowed it all. Although Jin Deyu, Huaguang and Feng Yinyang had conflicted expressions on their faces, in the end they accepted this inconceivable matter. Rumble. The rolling heavenly wrath was absorbed by Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan's body was surrounded by electric arcs. Everyone flew onto the flying boat and felt depressed, because the stimulation just now seemed to be too great. This was not the first time. Along the way, Yan Chuan had swallowed the heavenly wrath many times. Yan Chuan entered the main hall and digested it for a while. Then he walked out of the main hall again. Zizi was guarding the main hall. A trace of resentment flashed in her eyes. "Zizi, you don't have to worry anymore," Yan Chuan said with a smile. "Did you break through this time?" Zizi asked. "I'm still in the 10th tier of the divine realm. I can't break through anymore." Yan Chuan shook his head. The two walked to the bow of the boat. They looked at the scenery around them. "Are you really okay?" Zizi asked worriedly. "Don't worry," he said. "Heavenly lightning body tempering is something that comes from the inside out. Like I said, you might not be important in the eyes of others, but to me you are my lucky star. Look, my cultivation base is soaring. I'm already in the full circle of the divine realm. I just need an opportunity to break through to the emptiness realm." Yan Chuan hugged Zizi and sat on a chair at the bow of the boat. Rumble. The heavenly wrath followed again. But now Yan Chuan had already gotten used to it. Zizi looked at the sky and was still worried. "Don't worry. I've already gotten used to this level of heavenly wrath. It won't strike anymore. I know it's useless," Yan Chuan said with a smile. Seeing that the heavenly wrath surrounded them but did not strike, Zizi was relieved. "You've already swallowed the heavenly wrath several times. Is your cultivation really unable to increase anymore?" Zizi asked with a frown. "I need luck. Of course, if there is an even stronger heavenly punishment, I might be able to break through again." Yan Chuan smiled. "Even more powerful?" Zizi was slightly stunned. For example, Yan Chuan whispered in Zizi's ear. Zizi's face immediately turned red. No, not now. Zizi immediately shook her head. Alright, then we'll talk about it in Beijing. Yan Chuan said gently. No, not even in Beijing. Zizi suddenly shook her head. The divine retribution is already so great in our current state, but if it's really as you said, then the divine retribution will definitely be even stronger, and it might even be a destructive divine retribution. No, not now. What will I do if something happens to you? Zizi immediately shook her head. Take your time, okay? Wait until your cultivation is a little higher, then be a little stronger. Zizi advised gently. Alright. Yan Chuan nodded. Since Zizi was unwilling, Yan Chuan would not force her. Moreover, Zizi was doing this for Yan Chuan's sake. The two sat at the bow and watched the sun rise slowly in the east. The scene was extremely mesmerizing. Zizi gently leaned into Yan Chuan's embrace. At this moment, Zizi's eyes were filled with sweetness. Looking at the rising sun, it was as if she saw the hope of life. The darkest moment before dawn had finally passed. Now she was no longer lonely. What followed was happiness. Zizi looked at the rising sun happily. Yan Chuan leaned his face against Zizi's hair, and a sense of peace suddenly arose in his heart. The flying ship flew as if time had stopped. The two of them sat quietly at the bow of the ship. The officials around them did not disturb them, each doing their own thing. The flying ship continued to fly toward Dezhen. Chapter 8:16. Just as the two of them were in bliss. Buzz. The void in front of Yan Chuan suddenly trembled. The two of them frowned. Whoosh. A formation appeared in the trembling void and a palm-sized figure suddenly appeared above the light. Meow. An excited meow suddenly sounded. Whoosh. An extremely cute kitten appeared in front of them. Meow. Zizi's face immediately lit up with joy. Zizi quickly went forward and hugged Meow. Meow and Yan Chuan had signed a clan contract. Meow could teleport to Yan Chuan from anywhere through the clan contract. Last time, she had followed Mo Yushi to the Dazhao sacred ground to eat immortal stones. This time she suddenly came. Sister Zizi? Meow Meow called out excitedly. Immediately Meow jumped into Zizi's arms. Meow could be like a top bull. Similarly, she did not feel the curse on Zizi's body at all. Meow, why are you here? Zizi asked excitedly. I'm looking for De Lu and Yan Chuan. Why are you here too? Yan Chuan took you home. Meow said excitedly. Zizi nodded and a trace of happiness flashed across her face. You're finally willing to come back. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Oh? Meow, where did you go? Zizi asked curiously. I went to Sister Mo's place. She treated me to immortal stones. Meow. Meow said with a trace of greed as she recalled the aftertaste. Mo Yushi? Zizi's expression suddenly changed. Meow. Meow nodded. Zizi's expression flickered slightly, but she did not say anything. Instead, she flipped her hand and took out a purple stone from her storage treasure. The stone emitted a beautiful mist. Meow, this is for you, Zizi said. Meow, it's even bigger than Sister Mo's immortal stone. Meow. Meow excitedly hugged it. When Zizi heard that her immortal stone was bigger than the one Mo Yushi gave to Meow, her face lit up with joy. Zizi, don't spoil Meow too much. Yan Chuan laughed. I'm happy to. Zizi pouted. Yan Chuan smiled bitterly. Meow. Big hooligan. Big baddie. Big sister Zizi gave it to me, not to you. Meow immediately bared its fangs and brandished its claws at Yan Chuan. Of course, this baring of fangs and brandishing of claws was not intimidating at all. It was more adorable. Yan Chuan looked at Meow, amused. Meow. That's right, big baddie. Stingy guy. If it wasn't for big sister Zizi, I wouldn't have bothered with you. Sister Mo asked me to bring you a letter. Meow cried. As she spoke, she took out an envelope from her felt hat and threw it to Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan took it. He was slightly surprised. Zizi, who was holding Meow, saw the letter and was slightly moved. But she still said, I'll take Meow to walk around the ship. I haven't seen Meow for a long time. Looking at Zizi, Yan Chuan nodded, but his heart was filled with gratitude and relief. Soon, Yan Chuan was left alone at the bow of the ship. Looking at the letter, Yan Chuan thought for a while and opened it. Looking at the contents of the letter, his expression suddenly froze. He became serious. Yan Chuan read the contents of the letter again and again. After reading it over and over again, Yen Chuan put away the letter and his expression became extremely serious. Looking at the sun in the distance, Yen Chuan fell into deep thought. Tapping his fingers lightly on the armrest of the chair, Yen Chuan seemed to be thinking about something. On the other side, Zizi took Meow to walk around and said, "Meow, tell me what interesting things you've encountered in these years, okay? And what did you see in the Dazhao Holy Ground? That Mou Shi, what kind of person is she?" Chapter 8:17. Okay. Meow Meow said, hugging the immortal stone in her arms. Overwhelmed with happiness, she agreed without even thinking about it. Yen Chuan remained silent for a while. "Stop the ship." Yen Chuan ordered. "Yes." The soldiers' voices came from afar. "Call everyone over." Yen Chuan's face turned solemn. "Ah, yes." Soon Huoguang, Feng Yinyang, Jin Diyu, Tanlang, Zizi, and even Miao arrived before Yen Chuan. "Zizi, I might have to go to the Dazhao sacred ground," Yen Chuan said seriously. "What happened?" Zizi asked worriedly. "Yes. Not only did something happen but the entire world might change," Yen Chuan said seriously. "Great change in the world?" Everyone was surprised. "Can you go back to Beijing with Huoguang and the others?" Yen Chuan asked. Zizi nodded when she saw Yen Chuan's serious expression. "Okay, I'll wait for you in Beijing." "Your Majesty? What happened?" Huoguang asked curiously. "Something big is about to happen. Jin Diyu, follow me to the Dazhao sacred ground immediately. Everyone else, return to Beijing. I'll write a letter to Yifeng later to explain some things. Perhaps, it won't be long before the great Jin Empire becomes an emperor empire. Huoguang, when you return, train the troops and prepare them to the highest possible condition," Yen Chuan said solemnly. "Yes," Huoguang replied. "Feng Yinyang, I've mentioned the feng shui construction of Dazhao dynasty to you many times over the years. When we go back, I'll give you a handwritten order to get Yifeng to cooperate with you," Yen Chuan said. "Yes." Feng Yinyang nodded. "Your Majesty, will your trip be dangerous?" Huoguang asked worriedly. "With Jin Diyu accompanying us, you don't have to worry," Yen Chuan said. "Don't worry, Lord Hua. You don't have to worry about His Majesty's strength. I will definitely ensure His Majesty's safety," Jin Diyu guaranteed. "Also, Huoguang, go and see Bai Ditian when you reach Yanjing. Ask him to meet me at the Great Zhao Sacred Ground," Yen Chuan said. "Yes." "Meow. What about me?" Meow asked excitedly. "You. Stay behind and protect Zizi. If anything happens to Zizi, you can inform me immediately," Yen Chuan said. Meow. Meow was obviously unwilling to give up. "Your mission is the most important," Yen Chuan said affirmatively. Meow. Meow was finally satisfied. Zizi's eyes flashed with a trace of gratitude, but it quickly turned into a trace of tenderness. Yen Chuan organized a batch of imperial edicts and asked Huoguang to bring them back. Jin Diyu returned to his room alone. After a while he walked out. "Jin Diyu, let's go," Yen Chuan said. "Your Majesty, I have a secret technique here that I can give to the Empress," Jin Diyu said. "This is a secret technique passed down by my ancestors. It requires a special physique. I think that the Empress's fate is really the best. This should be a type of curse-type sorcery." Jin Diyu handed over a scroll made of animal skin. "Yao art?" Yen Chuan took it. A thread of curiosity flashed through Yen Chuan's eyes. "Nailhead 7 Arrows book," Jin Diyu said. Yen Chuan quickly skimmed through it. After reading it, his eyes lit up. "Jin Diyu, I accept this gift. I will compensate you in the future," Yen Chuan said solemnly. Jin Diyu smiled and did not say much. Yen Chuan handed the Nailhead 7 Arrows book to Zizi. "Take a look. If you are interested, you can study it." Zizi nodded. "Jin Diyu, let's go." Yen Chuan stepped out of the airship. Jin Diyu's body swayed and turned into a giant golden crow. "Your Majesty, get on my back." "Wah!" The golden crow carried Yen Chuan. With a flap of its wings, it shot into the distance and disappeared into the horizon. Chapter 8:18. East Divine Continent, Dazhao Sacred Ground, in a great hall. Mou Shi sat with Qing Long and the others. Mou Shi drank tea with a worried expression. Qing Long and the others stood behind her. Clang. The door of the great hall opened and Mr. Monroe stepped into the hall. Then the door closed again. "Mr. Monroe, how are things now?" Mou Shi asked as she put down her teacup. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Fortunately, I didn't let you down. I've dealt with those people. Phew. Qing Long and the others sighed in relief. Holy Lady, how did such a big thing happen this time? When Ruo asked worriedly. I don't know either. Mou, she said with a complicated expression. Someone must be trying to frame you, Holy Lady. However, the evidence is conclusive. So many people died, including the Holy Son and Holy Lady. Even if you're the Holy Lady, you can't escape the blame. When Ruo said worriedly. Mou, she shook her head. They can't do anything to me. Oh. Mr. Monroe looked puzzled. Thank you, Mr. Monroe. I won't hide it from you. When my father was alive, he gave me a token. With this token, I can contact the Holy Lord directly. No matter how big a mistake I make, the Holy Lord will protect me. Mou, she took a deep breath. Token? The Holy Lord? How is that possible? The Sacred Lord basically doesn't care about the Great Revelation sacred ground. Even the death of the Sacred Son and Sacred Daughter. No, your father is a Tao Lord. Back then, the Sacred Lord didn't pay much attention to it. It was the other people in the sect who took revenge. Why would the Holy Lord protect you personally? Mr. Monroe was puzzled. I'm not sure either, but I believe in my father. Although I can't see the Holy Master, as long as I give the token to Shangguan, she should be able to introduce me to him. Mou, she said with a frown. Shangguan? Mr. Monroe fell into deep thought. Shangguan doesn't have a Dharma seat in the sect, but she's the Holy Lord's most trusted person. The Holy Lord spends most of his time in seclusion, but the Holy Lord has given all the power in the sect to Shangguan. Even the other two Taoist lords aren't as powerful as her. Shangguan keeps a very low profile, but I can tell that she cares a lot about you. Mr. Monroe said thoughtfully. I believe, Father. With this command medallion, I'll definitely be safe. But I keep feeling that there's some other scheme behind this. Why would someone want to frame me? Moreover, it was so tragic. If we don't get to the bottom of this, I'm afraid that even if Holy Master can protect me, I will continue to fall into this trap. Mou, she said solemnly. But those corpses have all been buried by them. There's no way to investigate now. The Saintess was also unconscious at that time. There's no evidence. Mr. Monroe said with a frown. Let's wait a little longer. He'll be here soon. Mou, she sighed softly. Yin Chuan? When Ruo asked doubtfully. Mou, she nodded. But this just happened. Even if we inform Yin Chuan, it'll take a long time. When Ruo said with a frown. No, more than a year ago. Because of other matters, I've already informed him. He should have been here more than a year ago. Mou, she said. Other matters? Mr. Monroe's expression changed, but he nodded in the end. I can see that the Taoist lords of Sun and Moon have been acting very strangely in the past 2 years. I got the news from Shangguan. Shangguan told me to, so. Mou, she was a little troubled. Chapter 8:19. Haha, I understand. Saintess, you don't have to take it to heart. I'm still an outsider. When Ruo shook her head. The Great Zhao Sacred Ground. Yen Chuan and Jin Deyu landed on the peak of a mountain and looked into the distance at the sky filled with golden light. There was a huge mountain in the center, and the sky was filled with rolling merits. The Sea of Merits covered the sky and covered dozens of mountains. At the top of the Sea of Merits, there were thousands of human-shaped merits condensed from merits. Is this the Great Zhao Sacred Ground Sea of Merits and thousands of Dharma idols? Jin Deyu frowned. The thousands of Dharma idols corresponded to the thousands of experts in the Great Zhao Sacred Ground. Yen Chuan looked at the center. There were 3 figures. Yen Chuan recognized one on the left and one on the right. They were Mohina Dojin and Tao Lord Yu. The Dharma idols of the 2 Tao Lords and thousands of Dharma idols bowed to the figure in the center. It was a woman in a luxurious robe. The woman sat on a throne. Her face was blurry, but she exuded a domineering aura. Jingming. Yen Chuan narrowed his eyes. Your Majesty, the #1 city in the world, Great Zhou City, is in front. Jin Deyu said. Great Zhou City? The city lord is Mr. Monroe. Let's go. We'll enter the city first and ask around. Yen Chuan said. Yes. The 2 of them leaped and flew to the crowded city in the distance. This city did not have a city wall and did not need one. Who would dare to invade the city of the Great Zhao Sacred Ground? Moreover, it was close to Jingming. Who would not want to live and attack the city? Great Jin Dynasty Yanjing. Bai Ditian's Tiger God Temple. Hua Guang handed a letter to Bai Ditian. Supremacy Bai, His Majesty asked me to give this to you. He wants you to set off for the Great Zhao Sacred Ground immediately. Wu Guang said solemnly. Bai Ditian read the contents of the letter. As he read, his eyes gradually narrowed. Jingming Shatian? Bai Ditian's pupils constricted. Shatian? Wu Guang did not understand. That's not right. It shouldn't be as simple as killing the heavens. Bai Ditian immediately frowned as he paced back and forth in the hall. Supremacy Bai, His Majesty has asked you to go as soon as possible. Wu Guang said. Bai Ditian nodded and said, I understand. I will go. Wu Guang during this period maintained the state of the Great Jin army. Something big might happen soon. I know, His Majesty has already given the order. Wu Guang shouted. Yes. I'll leave for the Great Zhao sacred ground. Go ahead. Bai Ditian said. All right. After Wu Guang left, Bai Ditian continued to walk in the hall. The most powerful person in the world? Kill the heavens? How bold. Southern Divine Continent. What a tragedy. Inside a large hall, King Guai sat on the 9 dragons' heavenly throne as he looked at the court. A skeleton walked in the middle, reporting to Your Majesty the 1st Legion, 2nd Legion and 3rd Legion have already annihilated the 3 middle-level sects. The army will continue to expand. King Guai nodded. At this moment, Li Songhai also stepped forward. Your Majesty, the ghostly soldiers from the netherworld are constantly being deployed into the living world. Our Great Zhao sacred ground has become the norm. The day of unifying the southern divine continent is just around the corner. Li Songhai said respectfully. Good. King Guai nodded. King Guai looked at the court and said, I will set off for the Great Zhao sacred ground 3 days later. I will fight in Jingming Shatian. When I'm not around, Li Songhai will be in charge. Yes, Your Majesty. May Your Majesty live for 10,000 years. The court officials bowed. Snake Emperor, come with me. King of Gai said in a low voice. Chapter 820. In a corner of the hall stood a man with a gloomy face. His face was pale and he coughed with a handkerchief in his hand. Cough, cough, cough. After coughing for a while he seemed to feel much better. He nodded and said, Your Majesty, the Snake Emperor will naturally accompany you. In a hall in the North Divine Continent. Yao Qianshang, who had opened the tomb with Guyu Holy Sun, was frowning as he read a letter. A group of great demons stood beside him. Their leader was Spider King, who had competed with Yen Xuan in the Heavenly Bestowment Conference decades ago. Your Majesty, is it urgent? Spider King asked with a frown. Yao Qianshang passed the letter to the great demons and they quickly read it. The Archaic Mysteries sect is in the North Divine Continent. Dao Lord Yu came with Jingming's decree to forbid the Archaic Mysteries sect from divining the heavenly secrets? What does Jingming want? Spider King asked in surprise. Something big has happened in the East Divine Continent. Yao Qianshang said in a low voice. Something big. Spider King raised an eyebrow. I have already made arrangements for the construction of the Yao Nation. Spider King, follow me to the East Divine Continent immediately. Yao Qianshang said in a low voice. Yes. In a forest in the Middle Divine Continent. There was a manor in the forest. In a hall in the manor. The emperor stood in the middle of the hall. An old man held a painting in front of him and compared it to the emperor. The woman in the painting looked exactly like the emperor. However, the woman in the painting was smiling happily, while the emperor in front of him had an extremely serious expression. Phew, are you really the daughter of the Blade Demon? Are you really? I was still suspicious of the instructions left by our ancestor. I didn't expect you to really come. The old man said in surprise. Ancestor? Your lineage has really declined. Before I left you all a set of blade techniques. Whether you can rise up or not depends on yourselves. The emperor said calmly. Yes, thank you, Saintess. Thank you. The old man said excitedly. All right, now tell me what happened back then. How did my father die? The emperor said in a low voice. The old man frowned and shook his head. Saintess, our ancestor left a message. However, he said that he didn't know what happened that day, but someone must know. Oh. The emperor looked at the old man in confusion. The lord of the Dazhao holy ground, Jing Ming. The ancestor said that on the day the saber demon fell, Jing Ming was beside him. Jing Ming definitely knows everything. The old man said. Jing Ming, right next to the place where my father died? Witnessed everything? The emperor raised his eyebrows. Yes, that's what our ancestors told us. The old man nodded. The emperor frowned slightly. That woman again? Saintess. The old man called out. I got it. I'll carve the saber technique on the stone wall behind your house. You can observe it from there. The emperor said in a deep voice. Yes, thank you, Saintus, thank you, Saintus. The old man said happily. The emperor left behind the sword-shaped stone inscription and left the manor. At the peak of a mountain, the emperor looked at the horizon with a frown. Jingling? Although I don't want to see you for the sake of my father's revenge, I will endure for the time being. The emperor stepped forward and flew towards the east. Great Zhao Holy Land, Great Zhou City. In a restaurant, Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu sat down and a man stood in front of them. Are you saying that holy maiden Mo Yushi killed someone? And all of them were the sons of experts? Even Mohina Dojin's children were killed? Yan Chuan said with a serious expression. Of course. What else do you want to know? As long as you can afford the spirit stones, I can tell you everything. The man laughed. Chapter 821. Dazhao Holy Ground. Inside a large hall. Guyu Holy Sun looked at the 7 coffins in front of him with a gloomy face. Inside each coffin was a corpse. 3 men and 4 women. The 7 corpses were dressed in luxurious robes and their throats were slit. There was no sound. Guyu Holy Sun's face was gloomy. Beside him stood Mohina Dojin's favorite son Yangzigu. 2nd to 8th brother? What happened to them? I went to the central divine continent. Why are they all dead? Moreover, this is not how they should die. Guyu Holy Sun said with a gloomy face. Guyu, don't worry. Father has a plan. Yangzigu smiled. Rumor has it that Mo Yushi killed all of them. However, when I saw the corpses, I knew that it was definitely not Mo Yushi's doing. You said that father has a plan? What plan? Is it because of you again? Guyu Holy Sun's face changed. Yangzigu said proudly, that's right. Father wants to force Mo Yushi to marry me. That's why 2nd to 8th brother faked their deaths. Faked their deaths? What? Can they still be alive? Guyu Holy Sun said in a low voice. Of course. No matter what, they are still my brothers. How can I let them die for no reason? Yangzigu smiled. They died in front of everyone. How can they come back to life? How can we explain this to the Holy Master? Guyu Holy Sun said in a low voice. You don't have to worry about this. Father has a plan. Yangzigu said confidently. Guyu Holy Sun looked at his 7 siblings lying in the coffins and then at Yangzigu. His expression was complicated. It's because of you again. Father is too biased. He is so biased that he let his 7 children die for your marriage? Guyu Holy Sun felt a chill in his heart. Guyu Holy Sun could not understand his father's love. These were the biological children of Tao Lord Rage Sun. Were they really going to die just because of Yang Zhizhou's nonsense? Yangzigu said, Brother Guyu Holy Sun. You Holy Sun. Of you Holy Sun. You Holy Sun. Mo you Holy Sun. You Holy. You Holy Sun. They are my blood brothers and sisters. If they don't come back to life, I'll take your life. Ancient you Saint Child said coldly. You Holy Sun. You of you. Mo you Holy Sun has a low status in the Holy Land. He is only forcing Mo Yushi to marry him. Why did he go through so much trouble? Why did so many people die? Guyu Holy Sun said in a low voice. How would I know? You Holy Sun. I don't have time to look at these dead people with you. I still have to find Mo Yushi and ask for her hand in marriage. Yangzigu flung his sleeves and walked out of the hall. Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened as he watched Yangzigu leave. Guyu Holy Sun turned to look at the 7 coffins. 2nd brother, 3rd brother. I don't care how you died. You will come back to life. Otherwise, I will take revenge for you. It is our fortune to be born into this family, but it is also our sorrow. Guyu Holy Sun said bitterly. Yan Chuan and Jin Dayu were flying in the air. In front of them were 2 purple-robed figures. I have seen his portrait. He is Yan Chuan, the ruler of the Dajin dynasty. One of the purple-robed men shouted coldly. You are Yan Chuan? The other man's eyes lit up. Who are you? Yan Chuan looked coldly at the 2 men who had suddenly appeared. Chapter 822. Were the perfected cultivators of the Lanyu sect. One of them said. Oh, Lanyu sect? The top 10 mid-level sects in the East Divine Continent. I heard that your sect leader was once a disciple of the Dazhao Sacred Ground. Later, he got permission from Jingming to establish the Lanyu sect as a subsidiary of the Dazhao Sacred Ground? Yan Chuan recalled. Good that you know. Our sect leader is an upper void realm expert. Yan Chuan, surrender. One of the purple-robed men shouted. Surrender without a fight? I Yin Chuan have nothing to do with the Lanyu sect? Yin Chuan asked doubtfully. Yes, but you have something to do with Mo Yushi. Rumor has it that you're Mo Yushi's lover. Mo Yushi killed our sect leader's son and is now hiding at Meng Wenrua's place. As long as we capture you, I don't believe that Mo Yushi won't come out. The purple-robed man shouted. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. Is that so? Senior brother, just capture him. Don't talk nonsense with him. The other purple-robed man shouted. Yes. The two of them rushed toward Yin Chuan. Boom. Jin Dayu rushed forward and threw 2 punches. The 3 of them started fighting. Jin Dayu fought fiercely. As he roared, his punches were extremely powerful. There was even a burning force on his fists. Boom. Boom. The 2 Dharma treasures were immediately deformed by Jin Dayu's attacks. In the blink of an eye, the 2 purple-robed experts were sent flying. Yin Chuan did not stop and continued to fly toward the city lord's mansion. Soon, he arrived in front of the city lord's mansion. Who are you? Someone from the city lord's mansion stopped him. You may leave. Mr. Monroe's voice came from behind. Yes. The guards retreated. Yin Chuan and Jin Dayu also saw Mr. Monroe. Haha, Hades Emperor, I was just talking to the saint about you yesterday and you're already here today. Please. Mr. Monroe immediately stepped forward with a smile. Taking a deep breath, Yin Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe and said, Mr. Monroe, thank you so much for this. I didn't do anything. Please meet the saintess first. We'll talk later. Wenrua said with a smile. All right. Under Mr. Monroe's guidance, Yin Chuan soon arrived outside a large hall. Qing Long, Bai Long, Rosefinch, Xuanwu and 4 women stood guard outside the hall. Hades. Qing Long and the others exclaimed excitedly. The saintess is in the main hall. Bai Long said immediately. Bring Jin Dayu to familiarize himself with the surroundings. Yin Chuan said. Qing Long and the others suddenly raised their heads. Only then did he look at Jin Dayu in surprise. Jin Dayu? Perfected Lord Dayu? Qing Long said in surprise. Mr. Monroe also looked at Jin Dayu, who was standing beside Yin Chuan, in surprise. Jin Dayu had been walking behind Yin Chuan, and Mr. Monroe thought that he was just a subordinate of Yin Chuan. How could he have known that he was perfected Lord Dayu? Back then, the matter of the Great Qin dynasty annihilating the Great Feather Heavenly Sect had already reached Mr. Wenrua's ears. However, Mr. Wenrua would never have thought that Yin Chuan's follower was actually true Lord Great Feather. This is Jin Dayu, the 3rd army commander of the Dajin dynasty. Yin Chuan introduced him. Greetings, Master Jin. Everyone was a little confused. Was he really subdued? He was the founder of a middle-level sect. Yin Chuan's dynasty was only equivalent to a lower-level sect. How could a middle-level sect's founder be a subordinate of a dynasty? Jin Dayu, familiarize yourself with the surroundings first to prevent any thieves from sneaking in. Yin Chuan instructed Jin Dayu. All right. Jin Dayu nodded. Chapter 823. Yin Chuan and Wenrua stepped into the main hall. In the main hall, Mo Yushi also heard the news outside the hall. At this moment, she bit her lips and revealed a touched smile on her face. After such a big thing happened, the entire Dazhao Holy Land was hiding from Mo Yushi, afraid that they would be implicated. Only Mr. Monroe and Yin Chuan helped her. Hades Emperor, the Holy Maiden has always been thinking about you. This time, such a big thing happened and she also believes that you can help solve it. Mr. Monroe said. Yin Chuan nodded and said, I heard a little about it when I was in the city. Tell me what happened. At the mention of this matter, the 3 of them gradually became serious. Yin Chuan looked at Mo Yushi and Mo Yushi recalled. Did you receive the letter I sent you? Mo Yushi asked. Is it related to that letter? Yin Chuan asked curiously. More or less. Other than the 2 Dao Lords and Shangguan One, only the sect masters of the 5 vassal sects of the Dazhao Holy Land know about the news. The 5 sect masters have all arrived at the Dazhao Holy Land. You know these 5 vassal sects, right? Mo Yushi asked. Yes, the 5 vassal sects of the Dazhao Holy Land. The sect masters were all from the Dazhao Holy Land. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Yes, although they are vassal sects, they are still very prestigious in the Dazhao Holy Land. This time, the 5 sect masters each brought a son, hoping that the Holy Lord will favor them. The 5 sect masters rarely returned, so they looked for Yue and Maori to catch up. Mohina Dojin asked me to receive their sons and 7 of Mohina Dojin's children. At that time, I didn't think much and agreed. Mo Yushi frowned. Yes. And then? Yin Chuan frowned. And then, Mo, she revealed a bitter smile. That day, I invited everyone to my northern Mo hall and held a banquet. There were only the 13 of us and we talked and ate in the northern Mo hall. But then, I don't know who poisoned me but I fainted at that time. Mo, she recalled. Poison? Yin Chuan's face turned cold. Mo, she frowned. Yes, northern Mo hall. At that time it was a closed-door banquet. At that time the planning was very complicated. The person who poisoned me should be one of the other 12 people. Go on. I fell asleep. I don't know how much time had passed, but the door to the main hall was suddenly blasted open. At that moment I was startled awake and stood up. When I stood up, I saw that the other 12 people were all lying in a pool of blood. And in my hand I was holding a blood-soaked long saber. My body was also covered in blood. Mo, she recalled. All dead? Could it be Mohina Dojin? Yin Chuan said in surprise. It shouldn't be. Mohina Dojin led a group of great Zhao sacred grounds perfected lords in. When they entered the main hall I woke up. But everyone in the main hall was dead. Moreover, the blood had dried up. Clearly they had been dead for more than 2 hours. Mo, she said with a complicated expression. When you were unconscious, someone entered your main hall to kill people. Yin Chuan frowned. Oh. At that time, Qing Long and the others were guarding outside the main hall. My northern Mo hall even activated the array. During that time no one could enter. Mo, she said with a frown. No one came in? You were the only one alive? Everyone else is dead? How did Mohina Dojin know? Yin Chuan frowned. Mohina Dojin sensed that his son was dead, so he stormed into northern Mo hall in anger. Mr. Monroe said from the side. It seems that the murderer really put in a lot of effort. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. Chapter 824. Looks like the culprit really put in a lot of effort. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. Put in a lot of effort? Haha, it's really put in a lot of effort. In fact, this is a trap. Mo, she said with a cold expression. Oh, you know the culprit? Yin Chuan asked doubtfully. Most likely, but there's no evidence. No one believes me. When I woke up, it was almost the same time as Mohina Dojin barged into the main hall. There were many witnesses outside the hall. I couldn't deny it. Mo, she said with a complicated expression. Who's the culprit? Yin Chuan asked curiously. Mohina Dojin. Mo, she said in a low voice. Oh, didn't you say that he barged into northern Mo hall and those people had already been dead for 2 hours? Yin Chuan asked curiously. That's right. Mohina Dojin didn't have to be there to kill them. He didn't have to do it personally. He asked me to look after the sect master's sons to lure me into the trap and create an alibi for him. Mo, she said in a low voice. What do you mean? Yin Chuan asked doubtfully. You might not know, but in fact, in the Dazhao sacred ground, other than my father who was a dark phoenix, there was another phoenix, a fire phoenix. Later on, she married Mohina Dojin. However, this fire phoenix died after giving birth to Yang Zigu. Mo, she explained. Mohina Dojin's 9 sons are also phoenix sons. They all have the bloodline of the fire phoenix. Do you know that the phoenix people have a special ability? Mo, she asked. Nirvana rebirth? That's right. As long as the divine soul isn't destroyed and the body dies, the divine soul will turn into a phoenix soul egg. When this phoenix soul egg is born, it will extract all the essence of the body and turn the body into ashes. The phoenix soul egg will absorb all the essence of the body and turn into a phoenix egg. It will then break out of the nirvana rebirth. Mo, she explained. Tao Lord Black Sun's 7 children are all corpses? Yin Chuan's expression froze. According to their wounds, their throats were cut and blood. Their divine soul's rebirth. Their divine souls were death. Their divine soul's death. Their divine souls were. Their divine souls. Even their souls were their souls were nirvana. Was their underscore, was? Air. They didn't undergo nirvana, but split their bodies and souls? Yin Chuan immediately guessed the key point. That's right. Mohina Dojin rushed into the main hall in an instant. Indeed, he couldn't kill everyone in an instant, but he was able to silently collect the souls of his 7 children. Mo, she said in a low voice. No one has any doubts? There's no point in doubting it. Mohina Dojin's wife is a phoenix, but Mohina Dojin himself is a human. It can be said that Mohina Dojin's children have already abandoned the phoenix bloodline and are completely human. How could they be reborn as a phoenix? It's not impossible. Emoyushi said. Is this just your guess? Other than this, there's no other explanation. Mr. Monroe shook his head and said. Yes, but I don't understand. What? Why did they pay such a high price? Suicide? Just to frame me? They are the holy son and holy daughter. Emoyushi was confused. Chapter 825. No matter what, we already know the result in the process. Yen Chuan said in a low voice. But no one will believe me without evidence. Emoyushi said bitterly. Where are the corpses? Yen Chuan asked. They've all been taken away. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Yen Chuan took a deep breath. Just as Emoyushi had guessed, Mohina Dojin had done it flawlessly. There were no loopholes at all. Killing the Holy Sun and the Sacred Lady. Based on this crime alone, Yushi, the Sacred Lady, may be stripped of her position and banished from the Dazhao Holy Ground. Once she leaves the Dazhao Holy Ground, she will be hunted from all sides. Not only the 5 vassal sects, but even the enemies of the Sacred Lady's father would seek revenge on her. Moreover, would Mohina Dojin let the Sacred Lady off? Mr. Monroe explained. I have the token that my father left behind. The Sacred Lord can guarantee my safety. Emoyushi said. Oh. Yen Chuan asked curiously. Then Emoyushi repeated what her father had said before he died. That's not right. If Jingting doesn't care about your father's life, why would he care about your life? Otherwise your father wouldn't have died because of the token. Yen Chuan questioned. I believe in my father. Emoyushi said with certainty. Then Emoyushi took out a golden token and handed it to Yen Chuan. On the token there was only one word, Marshal. The token didn't have any vital chi fluctuations and there was no array. It was probably just a token. However, with this token Jingting could take care of Emoyushi? Then why didn't Emoyushi's father protect her? Yen Chuan fell into deep thought. While the 3 of them were deep in thought, a voice suddenly sounded from outside the hall. Get out of the way, Wenrua. I know Emoyushi is with you. Let me in. An arrogant voice came from outside the palace. Yang Zigu? Yen Chuan's expression changed as he suddenly remembered. The 3 people in the hall looked at each other. Yen Chuan nodded. Wenrua walked out of the main hall and very quickly she allowed Yang Zigu to enter the main hall. The moment Yang Zigu entered the main hall, he saw Yen Chuan. It's you? You still dare to come to my great Zhao Holy Land? Yang Zigu said coldly. Yen Chuan smiled and said, I'm here for Mr. Monroe. What's there to be afraid of? Looking for Mr. Monroe? Instantly Yang Zigu's expression relaxed a lot. Then Yang Zigu looked at Emoyushi. Yushi. Yang Zigu suddenly said gently. Don't call me Yushi. I can't accept it. Emoyushi said coldly. Why can't you accept it? You're here for Northern Emo Hall? Don't worry, I've already discussed it with father. As long as you're willing to marry me, father will help you suppress everything. Yang Zigu said with a smile. Oh? Mohina Dojin's 7 children died and he can sit by and do nothing? Emoyushi's expression changed. At the side, Yen Chuan and Mr. Monroe were observing Yang Zigu's expression to judge the case. Of course they're different. It's not like you don't know that my father listens to me. If the 7 of them died, so be it. Here are the betrothal gifts. I've already prepared them. As long as you agree you won't have any more worries. You'll still be the saintess of the great Zhao Holy Land. No one will dare to touch you. Yang Zigu flipped his hand and took out a box of betrothal gifts. Seeing Yang Zigu's confident attitude, Yen Chuan believed Emoyushi's guess even more. This is Mohina Dojin's scheme, right? Why is he targeting me? He's even willing to kill his own children? Emoyushi rebuked angrily. Chapter 826. Yang Zigu panicked, but he still said calmly, What did you say? I don't understand, but let me tell you, Emoyushi, if you don't agree to marry me, you will be banished from the Dazhao Holy Land. At that time, I will still be able to capture you and no one will be able to protect you. Banished from the Dazhao Holy Land? Mohina Dojin is so bold, but you are also so ruthless. Using the lives of 7 brothers in exchange for me to marry you? If I really marry you, who knows when I will be like your brothers, easily slaughtered by you and used to coax the hearts of other women. Emoyushi said coldly. No Yushi, why would I harm you? My brothers are actually... Yang Zigu shouted anxiously, but he suddenly stopped halfway. Emoyushi, let me tell you, I am here to give you face, and I don't want to make things difficult for you. If you marry now, you can still maintain some dignity. My father has already prepared to report this to the Holy Lord. Once the Holy Lord speaks, you can forget about escaping from my hands. You killed 7 of my brothers, and the Holy Lord will definitely agree to my father's request in order to compensate him. Yang Zigu said coldly. Scram. Mo, she shouted. Yang Zigu flung his sleeves and walked out of the main hall angrily. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. The main hall was silent. From the looks of it, the Holy Lady's guess should be right, and the souls of Yang Zigu's 7 brothers are definitely still in Mohina Dojin's hands. Mr. Monroe analyzed. To marry me? Why would Mohina Dojin go through so much trouble? Mo, she frowned. With Mohina Dojin's current achievements, if he fancies any saint lady, all he has to do is report to the Holy Master, and the Holy Master will agree to let that saint lady be his daughter-in-law. But for my matter, why would Mohina Dojin go through so much trouble? Mo, she was confused. This means that you have something that even Mohina Dojin can't touch. This kind of thing is even more important than Mohina Dojin's achievements. Yen Chuan analyzed in a deep voice. As he spoke, everyone looked at the command medallion. On the command medallion was the word Marshal. Mr. Monroe, can I trouble you with something? Yen Chuan said. Please speak, Hades Emperor. I'll have to trouble you to help me gather some information about Mohina Dojin, Yang Zigu, and Guyu Holy Sun from the time of the Northern Mo Hall murder case. Yen Chuan said. Okay, no problem. Hades Emperor, do you have a solution? Mr. Monroe asked curiously. Solution? Let's take a look at them first. Alright, if you can get Guyu Holy Sun and Yang Zigu's blood, that would be even better. If you can't get it, you can get some of their hair too. Yen Chuan said. Okay, I'll try my best. Mr. Monroe nodded. Do you have a solution? Mo, she frowned. From Yang Zigu's words, I can roughly tell that Yang Zigu should know everything. Since he knows, then we'll have to pry it out of him. Yen Chuan said with a serious expression. Oh, Mohina Dojin is very concerned about Yang Zigu. As long as Yang Zigu has any mishap, Mohina Dojin will definitely arrive in an instant. This is the great Zhao Holy Land. Mo, she frowned. I know. However, with your token, I've also thought of a way. Just wait. As long as Mr. Wenruo receives the same news as what I think, we can immediately strike first and gain the initiative. Even if Tao Lord Rage Sun watches on helplessly, he won't be able to stop it. Yen Chuan said with a serious gaze. Chapter 827. On the same day when Ruo went to collect information, Yen Chuan, accompanied by Mo Yushi, quietly went to North Mo Hall again. The door of North Mo Hall was broken and the hall was in a mess. There were many bloodstains on the ground. Yen Chuan's eyelids twitched and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. The corpses have been collected. Mo Yushi sighed. It's okay, these bloodstains are enough. Which ones belong to Yang Zigu's brothers? Yen Chuan said with satisfaction. Mo Yushi pointed at a few bloodstains and Yen Chuan carefully collected them. After looking around North Mo Hall, Yen Chuan and the rest returned to the City Lord's mansion. In the City Lord's mansion, Mr. Monroe collected a large amount of information. Yen Chuan quickly finished reading the information. He smiled and said, Mr. Monroe, you're really fast. These are all recorded. I found them quickly. Also, I found some of Yang Zigu's and Guyu Holy Sun's hair. Mr. Monroe smiled. I found the servants in charge of cleaning Yang Zigu's and Guyu Holy Sun's houses every day. I found them among the trash they cleaned. Mr. Monroe smiled. That's great. Yen Chuan smiled. What are you going to do? Mo Yushi asked curiously. Where's the betrothal gift that Yang Zigu left behind? Yen Chuan asked. Mo Yushi did not like the betrothal gift, but she still took it. There were 36 immortal stones in the betrothal gift, and they emitted a faint mist. Yen Chuan reached out and took out a fiery red immortal stone. This is a fire-type immortal stone? Mo Yushi asked in confusion. Yen Chuan once again took out a strand of Yang Zigu and Guyu Holy Sun's hair. He also took out the blood of Yang Zigu's elder brother that he had collected in Northern Mo Hall. With a wave of his hand, his hair and blood quickly fused into one, turning into a fiery red liquid. Staring at the red liquid, Yen Chuan's eyes narrowed. Boom. Yen Chuan's palm let out a thunderous roar. It came from the spring thunder of the thunderclouds in the blue sky. With the sound of spring thunder, all living things were born. Within the red liquid, there was an additional aura of life. With his other hand, he held the fire-type immortal stone and mixed the red liquid with it. Boom. With another thunderous roar, the two merged perfectly into one. Oh. Above the fire-type immortal stone, the dense chi instantly condensed into a fire-type phoenix. Phoenix struggled bitterly, but she was unable to escape from the immortal stone. What is this? Mr. Monroe's expression changed. Refining souls into treasures? Mo Yushi's expression changed. That's right. 4 mini Dharma treasures, as long as the soul of a specific demon beast is refined into them, their spirituality and power will increase greatly. The immortal stone is no exception. As long as the soul of a fire-type phoenix is refined into it, the immortal stone will carry the aura of a phoenix. When absorbing the primordial chi in the immortal stone, it will greatly benefit the user. Yen Chuan said with a smile. But is this a soul? Wen Ruo frowned. Of course not. This is just the surface. From the surface, it looks like the soul of Yang Zigu's elder brother has been refined into it. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Mr. Monroe's expression changed. Then he looked at Yen Chuan in surprise and said, "Ha, Hades Emperor's method is really ingenious. We have no evidence, so we can only take risks. I won't hide it from you, sir. Can you accompany us during this time?" Yen Chuan stared at Mr. Monroe and said. Mo Yushi's expression changed. She understood Yen Chuan's intention. Yen Chuan was preparing to set up a trap. He wanted Wen Ruo to accompany them to prevent Wen Ruo from leaking information. On the other hand, he wanted to force Wen Ruo to side with Yen Chuan. He wanted Wen Ruo to isolate the Dazhao sacred ground. Chapter 828. Wen Ruo smiled bitterly and nodded. She gave some instructions to Mo Yushi. Everyone stepped out of the city lord mansion again. Yen Chuan, Mo Yushi, Wen Ruo, Jin Dayu, Qing Long, and the others flew towards the Great Bright Mountain. Great Bright Mountain Jingyu Dojo. The #1 holy land in the world. Countless Great Bright Holy Land Xiuzha flew back and forth in all directions. Above their heads was the Great Bright Holy Land Merit Cloud Sea. Thousands of Dharma images with grand power pressed down. Everyone flew over and also attracted the attention of Xiuzha from all directions. Whoosh! Instantly, a figure blocked in front of everyone. A man in blue robes had a dark expression. Mo Yushi, you still dare to come out? The man in blue robes said coldly. Yushi greets Supreme Lanyu. Regarding your son's death, Yushi deeply regrets. But there is another secret. If not for Yushi, you will know in a few days. Mo Yushi said. Ha, not you? Mo Yushi, you still want to quibble? Supreme Lanyu said with a dark expression. Presumptuous Supreme Lanyu. The truth is not out yet. How can the great bright holy daughter allow you to slander her? Mr. Monroe instantly shouted. Wen Ruo, a little lower void realm, what right do you have to talk about me? Supreme Lanyu said with a dark expression. This is the great bright holy land, not your Lanyu sect, Mo Yushi said coldly. What about the great bright? What about the great bright? I also walked out of the great bright. Can my son die for no reason? Mo Yushi, I want you to pay with your life. Supreme Lanyu said angrily. Supreme Lanyu shouted angrily. Countless Xiuzha from all directions looked over. Other than Supreme Lanyu, the strong people of the vassal sects also looked over with unfriendly faces. Just as everyone was glaring at Mo Yushi, a voice suddenly came from the back of the crowd. Ha, what about the Great Bright? Here in the Great Bright, these are the rules of the Great Bright. What? Could it be that someone wants to violate the rules of our Great Zhao? A pretty girl's voice was heard. Hearing this voice, almost everyone's expression changed. The crowd turned their gazes over. It was a woman in a red robe who slowly walked over. The woman was about 20 years old. She had an oval-shaped face and a pair of watery eyes. She looked very charming, but her entire temperament gave off a sense of experience. With a book in his hand, he walked over slowly, neither hurriedly nor slowly. A graceful, noble and lofty aura was instantly emitted. Everyone's expression changed and they immediately said respectfully, Greetings, Miss Shangguan? Miss Shangguan? Shangguan Wan, Yen Chuan's expression suddenly changed as he looked at the woman. True Monarch Lanyu, the Wu clan's plaza is not to be noisy. Have you forgotten? Shangguan Waner smiled faintly. A trace of cold sweat emerged on True Lord Lanyu's forehead, and he immediately nodded his head and said, I know my mistake. It's good that you know your wrongs. In the Great Zhao Holy Lands, Zhang Sun is responsible for everything. Don't let the Holy Lord be disappointed in you. Shangguan Waner said indifferently. Yes, I will remember it in my heart. True Lord Lanyu immediately said submissively. Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Shangguan Wan'er in surprise. One must know that Lan Yu sect was one of the 5 major vassal sects, and true Lord Lan Yu was an upper void realm expert. At this moment he was submissive to Shangguan Wan'er? Yushi greets Miss Shangguan. Mo Yushi said solemnly. Girl, what are you doing? Shangguan Wan'er immediately went forward and smiled. Does Miss Shangguan know about Yushi's matter? Mo Yushi frowned and asked. Who in the great Zhao Holy Lands doesn't know? But don't worry, with me here no one will hurt you. Shangguan Wan'er suddenly smiled. Chapter 829. As long as I'm here no one will hurt you? Everyone was shocked. Shangguan Wan'er wanted to protect Mo Yushi? With this protection who would dare to touch her? Supreme Lan Yu's expression was ugly. She looked at Mo Yushi with resentment. Mo Yushi shook her head and said, Yushi is innocent. Miss Shangguan, please investigate. Innocent? I've already sent someone to check. Unfortunately now. Shangguan Wan'er sighed slightly. Obviously, in the case of irrefutable evidence, it was impossible for them to use it and there was no way for them to use it. Miss Shangguan, this time I'm here to clear my name. I hope the Holy Master can give me a fair chance. Mo Yushi said sincerely. Ha, Mo Yushi, you want to disturb the Holy Master for your matter? An extremely disdainful voice came from the crowd. It was Yang Zigu. He had heard the news at some point and had also come to the crowd. Shangguan Wan'er frowned and looked at Yang Zigu. Her eyes flashed with a trace of displeasure. However, Yang Zigu's words seemed to have struck a chord in everyone's hearts. The Holy Master? The Holy Master will clear your name? Back then Mo Yushi's father was a Dao Lord. Jing Ming didn't care much about the Dao Lord's death. You, a little saintess, want the Holy Master to make a move? No one was optimistic about Mo Yushi. What a fool's dream. Yushi, you want to see the Holy Master? Do you know that the Holy Master doesn't like you? Shangguan Wan'er frowned. The Holy Master doesn't like Mo Yushi? Instantly Yang Zigu and Supreme Lan Yu's eyes lit up. Shangguan Wan'er was the Holy Master's mouth. If she said that the Holy Master didn't like Mo Yushi, then he definitely didn't like her. The Holy Master doesn't like Mo Yushi? Then it would be much easier to deal with Mo Yushi. Even if Shangguan Wan'er protected Mo Yushi, it would be useless. Everyone had their own plans. Mo Yushi frowned slightly. It was obvious that this was the first time she had heard of it. However, he still nodded and said, My father once gave me a token. He said that as long as I gave the token to the Holy Master would protect me. Mo Yushi handed over the token. Mo Yushi, are you lying to the Holy Master? You think the Holy Master will protect you just because of this stupid token? Yang Zigu sneered in disbelief. Of course, at this moment, no one believed that the command medallion was useful. Everyone present was an expert, so they could tell with a single glance that there was nothing special about this token. If this token was really useful, then the Holy Lord wouldn't have remained indifferent to the death of Mo Yushi's father. Just as she was waiting to see Mo Yushi make a fool of herself, Shangguan Wan'er became extremely serious. Shangguan Wan'er put away the scroll in her hand and respectfully took the token with both hands. The faces of Yang Zigu and Supreme Lan Yu stiffened. Stupid token? If it was a stupid token, would Shangguan Wan'er be so serious? Shangguan Wan'er took the token and looked at it carefully. Then her expression changed. Seeing Shangguan Wan'er's expression, everyone's heart jumped. What kind of token was that? Was it really that important? Shangguan Wan'er looked at the token and took a deep breath. Then she looked at Mo Yushi and said, Yushi, don't worry. Although the Holy Master doesn't like you, you are still the saintess of the great Zhao. I will try my best to persuade the Holy Master to give you a chance. Thank you, Lady Shangguan. Mo Yushi's face lit up with joy. However, the people around couldn't believe it. Was this a joke? How busy was the Holy Master? Why would he come out for Mo Yushi? Supreme Lan Yu, Yang Zigu and the others looked at the token in disbelief. Shangguan Wan'er still didn't think it was enough. She said to the subordinates behind her, Inform the great Zhao sacred ground that those above true monarch are to wait outside the Wu clan's main hall. The Holy Master may summon them at any time. Yes. The subordinates said respectfully. Supreme Lan Yu was at a loss. What did Shangguan Wan'er's order mean? That meant that the Holy Master would definitely come out. Definitely come out? How was that possible? How could an ordinary token make the Holy Master come out? Everyone here stared at Shangguan Wan'er's token. They wanted to engrave this token in their hearts so that they wouldn't accidentally offend it one day without knowing what happened. Chapter 830. Jingming, the most powerful person in the world. Only others waited for her, not for her. Shangguan Wan'er's order was spread in all directions. All the true monarchs outside received the news and headed towards the Great Bright Mountain and the Wu clan's main hall. Shangguan Wan'er put away the order and looked at Mo Yushi. Yushi, do you need my help to clear your name? No, I've already invited Mr. Monroe and Yen Chuan. As long as the Holy Lord allows us to enter the Great Zhao Mountain together, it will be enough. Mo Yushi shook her head. Shangguan Wan'er looked at Wenruo and then at Yen Chuan. Her eyes lit up. This is the Yen Chuan who wrote the 9 hardships of the common people, created the painting of misery and suffering with Mr. Monroe, and the statue of the sorrowful tearful goddess? I've heard a lot about you. Shangguan Wan'er asked curiously. Miss Shangguan, you're too kind. Yen Chuan was just lucky. Yen Chuan smiled. Lucky? Ah, I've seen your calligraphy. It's even in the hands of the Holy Lord. The Holy Lord praised your calligraphy. Shangguan Wan'er laughed. Calligraphy? The calligraphy at the Heavenly Bestowal Conference? In Jingming's hands? Aha, that calligraphy was completely dependent on Mr. Monroe's painting. It's nothing. Yen Chuan shook his head. You're too kind. My painting was completely dependent on your calligraphy. Wenruo shook her head. You don't need to be modest, said Shangguan Wan'er. Wan'er admires Emperor Yan's talent. The Great Jin Dynasty's great collapse plan. Now the whole world is warning against it. Just a few spirit stones were enough to destroy a mid-level sect. It's unprecedented in this world. The Great Collapse Plan? Yen Chuan was surprised. One had to know that this plan was extremely secretive. Not many people knew about it. Only a few factory guards knew about it, and they only found out about it after the incident. Shangguan Wan'er knew about it too? You flatter me. Yen Chuan shook his head. Shangguan Wan'er smiled and said, The Holy Lord also wishes to meet the young geniuses. Wan'er is looking forward to this opportunity. After Shangguan Wan'er finished speaking, she turned around and walked back. Obviously he had gone to see Jing and I. There was a moment of silence on the square. Supreme Lan Yu and the others all looked gloomily at Mo Yushi. Yang Zigu frowned and stepped forward. Yushi, what do you mean by redress? Could there be other murderers? Mo Yushi smiled faintly and ignored him. Many people were watching. Yang Zigu's face stiffened, and at the same time, a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. Swish, swish. One figure after another flew over and landed on the square. In the Great Zhao sacred ground, perfected monarchs flew over one after another. All of them looked at Mo Yushi curiously. In the blink of an eye, there were already 100 perfected monarchs on the square. All of them had restrained their aura and looked very dignified. Perfected monarchs had the same status as Saintess and Holy Sun. They were below Tao monarchs and above enlightened masters. All of the perfected monarchs arrived and stood outside the main hall, waiting for Jing Ni's summons. The 100 perfected monarchs all had serious expressions. At the same time, they distanced themselves from Mo Yushi and the 5 sect masters of the vassal sections. Jing and I did not like to form cliques. Therefore, the 100 perfected monarchs did not want to be involved in this karma. Yen Chuan, Wenruo, Mo Yushi and the others stood together and looked at the main hall. There was a plaque above the main hall that wrote Wu Clan. Wu Clan main hall? Do you know where it came from? Yen Chuan asked Mo Yushi curiously. Mo Yushi looked at the main hall, thought for a while and shook her head. This main hall was originally called Great Zhao Hall. It was later changed to Wu Clan Main Hall. Chapter 831. Oh, the Great Zhao Palace? It was changed later? When? Yen Chuan was confused. It should have started when Shangguan Wan'er came. Mo Yushi frowned. When Shangguan Wan'er came? Yen Chuan was confused. Yes, at that time the Great Zhao Holy Ground was not the #1 sect in the world. The Holy Master trusted Dao Lords Yu Yu and Mao Ri the most until one day, Shangguan Wan'er suddenly appeared. No one knew where she came from. That day Shangguan Wan'er and the Holy Master spent a night alone. That night, the Holy Master's strength suddenly skyrocketed, and his aura spread out in all directions. No, it spread to the entire world. The 5 great divine lands were all filled with the Holy Master's aura. At that time, the Holy Master's strength reached the peak, and he was invincible in the world. Mo Yushi recalled. Invincible in the world? His aura covered the entire world? Yan Chuan was shocked. Yes, and the Holy Master's personality also changed a little. He had an unprecedented domineering aura. It's similar to the aura you gave off during the morning assembly. Moyushi frowned. The aura of an emperor? Yan Chuan was confused. Yes, at that time Shangguan became the Holy Master's most trusted aide. Even Yu Yu and Mao Ri were not as favored as Shangguan. Moyushi recalled. Right, I remember that you can see through people's cultivation. What's Shangguan cultivation? Moyushi asked curiously. I can't see it. Yan Chuan frowned. You can't see it? Moyushi was shocked. Yan Chuan nodded and fell silent. There were only two possibilities for Yan Chuan to be unable to see through someone's cultivation. One was that there was a technique to hide one's cultivation, and the other was that the person's cultivation surpassed the highest level of cultivation in Yan Chuan's previous life. Everyone waited outside the hall. Mohina Dojin, Dao Lord Yu Yu, and Guyu Holy Sun all appeared in the plaza and looked at Moyushi. Everyone waited patiently. Half a day later, Shangguan appeared at the gate of the Wu clan's main hall again. The Sacred Lord has ordered that all true monarchs and above enter the Wu clan's main hall. Shangguan shouted. Yes. The true monarchs replied respectfully. With Dao Monarch Maori and Dao Monarch Yu Yu leading the way, they slowly stepped into the Wu clan's main hall. Moyushi and the others were waiting. When the group of true monarchs entered the palace, many of the true monarchs were surprised. When they looked at Moyushi again, their expressions changed a lot. Really? Did that token really attract the attention of the sacred leader? After all the true lords had entered the palace, Shangguan looked at the leaders of the 5 subordinate sections. Everyone, Shangguan said to the 5 sect masters, the main reason why the Holy Master is hosting this meeting is to prove the innocence of your sons and holy maiden Yushi. You may enter the hall. Yes. The 5 nodded in response. The Saint Lord had come? The 5 of them stepped into the hall. Yang Zigu stood outside the hall and was still in disbelief. Yushi, what token is that? Why did the sacred leader come out when he received the order? Yang Zigu said with a hint of worry. Moyushi naturally ignored him. Yang Zigu asked for a snub and his face became gloomier. He turned and looked at Yan Chuan with a hint of hatred in his eyes. It was as if Moyushi ignored him because of Yan Chuan. The sacred leader summons Moyushi, Yan Chuan and Meng Wenrua to enter the hall. Shangguan shouted. Yan Chuan, Moyushi and Wenrua nodded. They followed Shangguan into the Wu clan's main hall. When the 3 of them entered the main hall, they immediately felt a pressure from the sky. It was as if they were being watched by the heavens, which made them feel solemn. Chapter 832. Step by step they entered the main hall. The main hall was divided into 3 stages. The first stage was filled with perfected cultivators, Holy Sun and Saintesses. The one leading them was Guyu Holy Sun, who was looking at Yan Chuan and the other 2 with a gloomy face. The second stage was filled with Dao Lord Yu Yu, Mohina Dojin, and the sect masters of the 5 subordinate sections. They were all upper void realm experts. The third stage was filled with a huge dragon throne. On the dragon throne there was a woman who looked to be around 40 years old. She was graceful and elegant, and her eyes were filled with great wisdom. She placed her hands on the armrests of the dragon throne and quietly watched the people who had entered the palace. The lady was wearing a luxurious yellow robe. She looked down at everyone as if she was looking down on them. She exuded a trace of Emperor's Qi. Yan Chuan frowned slightly. Emperor's Qi? Why did Jing Ming have the Emperor's Qi? Shangguan walked in front of the 3 and bowed respectfully to the lady on the dragon throne. Sacred Lord Moyushi, Yan Chuan and Wenrua are here. Shangguan said respectfully. Jing Ming nodded. Shangguan stepped onto the second stage and stood beside Mohina Dojin. Everyone in the main hall looked at the 3 people in the middle of the hall. Disciple Moyushi greets the Sacred Lord. Dajin Yan Chuan greets the Sacred Lord. Meng Wenrua greets the Sacred Lord. The 3 of them greeted Jing Ming with different etiquette. Moyushi knelt down while Wenrua and Yan Chuan remained standing. Jing Ming? The person in front of them was the most powerful person in the world? Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with anticipation. Moyushi? Jing Ming suddenly asked from the dragon throne. Yes. Moyushi replied respectfully. One has told me about you. She said that you want to prove your innocence? You want me to uphold justice for you? Jing Ming said calmly. Yes, please uphold justice for me. I'll be grateful. Mo Yushi knelt down. Jing Ming looked at Mo Yushi, a complicated look flashed across his eyes. Perfected Lord Lan Yu suddenly stepped forward and said respectfully, Sacred Lord, the evidence is conclusive. Mo Yushi killed our son, Sacred Lord, please punish him. The sect leaders of the vassal sects also wanted to say something. Do I need you to teach me? Jing Ming said indifferently. True Lord Lan Yu's expression changed and he immediately said, Dare not, I misspoke. The other 4 vassal sect leaders immediately swallowed the words that were on the tip of their tongues. Mo Yushi. Jing Ming said indifferently. Disciple, since you want me to uphold justice for you, then let's begin. Jing Ming said indifferently. Yes, I have invited Yan Chuan to help me prove my innocence. Please allow it. Mo Yushi said respectfully. Allowed. Jing Ming answered. Getting permission, Yan Chuan stepped forward and gently helped Mo Yushi up. Mo Yushi was slightly worried. But seeing Yan Chuan's gaze, she still got up in the end. Yan Chuan helped Mo Yushi up and looked at Jing Ming. I've long heard of Sacred Lord Jing's great name. Yan Chuan defended Mo Yushi this time. If there's any disrespect, Sacred Lord Jing will be magnanimous. Yan Chuan said. Jing Ming answered. I'm sure everyone has heard about the incident that day. Yan Chuan won't repeat it. Next, Yan Chuan will analyze the case and ask the relevant people. During this period, I hope everyone can restrain themselves and not be too impulsive. Yan Chuan looked at Mohina Dojin. Mohina Dojin narrowed his eyes. But he did not open his mouth. Jing Ming nodded, no interruptions without asking. Yes. Everyone in the hall answered at the same time. Thank you, Sacred Lord Jing. Yan Chuan smiled slightly. Mohina Dojin suddenly felt something was amiss and raised his brows. Chapter 833. Jing Yu nodded, do not interrupt without asking. Yes. Everyone in the palace responded in unison. Thank you, Holy Lord Jing. Yan Chuan smiled. Mohina Dojin suddenly felt that something was amiss and raised his eyebrows. Yan Chuan wanted this order. He wanted Mohina Dojin to shut up. Then Yan Chuan suddenly looked at Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun, please step forward. Yan Chuan has something to ask. Yan Chuan looked at Guyu Holy Sun. Everyone in the palace looked at Guyu Holy Sun. Guyu Holy Sun raised his eyebrows, but he still stepped forward. He looked at Yan Chuan with a cold gaze. Yan Chuan, what do you want to ask? Guyu Holy Sun cooperated. Guyu Holy Sun must be deeply affected by the Northern Mo Palace massacre, right? Yan Chuan smiled. That's right. 3 of my younger brothers and 4 of my younger sisters died in the Northern Mo Palace massacre. They are the people closest to me. I must avenge them. Guyu Holy Sun looked at Mo Yushi with a gloomy expression. Well said. Avenge your loved ones. Only then can their souls rest in peace. Yan Chuan immediately added. Guyu Holy Sun, I've seen some information. Mohina Dojin has 9 sons. You are the closest to the 7 who died. So what? You are the eldest? Rumor has it that Tao Lord Black Sun gave all of you cultivation resources in the past. His 7 dead sisters-in-law gave all of them to you in the beginning to help you cultivate. He hoped that you would become strong enough to protect his 7 sisters-in-law. What a close sibling relationship. Yan Chuan laughed. Guyu Holy Sun clenched his fists. He was clearly touched by what had happened in the past. Rumor has it that during one of your travels, you encountered a strong demon. The ancient moon sacred child was on the brink of death, and it was your 4th sister who used her delicate body to block the fatal blow for you. In exchange, you, as the elder brother, had an epiphany of life and death. You became strong, but your 4th sister was left with an eternal illness. Guyu Holy Sun thought of the past. His heart pounded and his eyes became bloodshot. Rumor has it that you suffered from chi deviation during one of your cultivation. You needed a 10,000-year-old ice lotus to cure your inner demons. Your 3rd brother went to the great snow mountain of the northern divine continent and knelt down to beg countless demons. He was humiliated and even had an ugly tattoo on his face. Only then did he beg for the 10,000-year-old ice lotus to cure your inner demons. Although you flattened the great snow mountain for your 3rd brother, the humiliation he suffered could never be erased. It even became his inner demons, making it difficult for him to improve his cultivation. Yan Chuan stepped closer. Guyu Holy Sun clenched his fists. His eyes were bloodshot. Yan Chuan, what do you want to say? Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened. He was extremely uneasy. What Yan Chuan said was the truth. One could easily find out if they asked around in the great Zhao Holy Sun. This was the eternal pain in Guyu Holy Sun's heart. What do I want to say? Guyu Holy Sun, can't you see what I want to say? Your 7 brothers and sisters gave you their resources. They did not hesitate to lose their lives for you. They did not hesitate to throw away their dignity for you. What did they do for you? Deep brotherly love? This was only one reason. More importantly, they hoped that you, as their big brother, could protect them. Did you do it? Yin Chuan stepped forward. Guyu Holy Sun unconsciously took a step back. They did this for you. There are many more. I won't list them. But what about you? You watched them die. What did you do? Did you do nothing? Yin Chuan asked. That's why I want to take revenge for them. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. Revenge? Do you really want to take revenge? Do you know why they did this? Their corpses were collected by Mohina Dojin. You should have seen it. Did you feel it when you saw these corpses? Yin Chuan shouted. Chapter 834. Feel it? Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were red. Feel your 4th sister's cry when she blocked the demon's fatal attack for you? Feel your 4th sister's determination when she sacrificed herself for you? Feel your 3rd brother's humiliation when he was humiliated? Feel your 3rd brother's tears when he was humiliated when you were tattooed? You can't feel it because when you became the most important person in the Great Zhao Holy Land, you turned their hope into despair once again. Why did they die? Killed. Of their own accord? Do you know? I think you know, and so do they. But in this moment they couldn't get any help from you. They couldn't get any sympathy from you. They couldn't get any help from you. They couldn't get any sympathy from you. They couldn't get any help from you. But you cooperated with them. You never thought of helping them out of their misery. Yin Chuan questioned. No, I couldn't help them. I wasn't there. I wasn't by their side. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were slightly moist. You weren't by their side. Are you not here now? You might know the result. But now, do you want to help them get out of that situation or continue to cooperate with them? Are they willing to be killed or commit suicide? Do you think you would be willing to do that? What about them? You never thought about them. Their endless hope is just a sacrifice for your growth. Yin Chuan said with a venomous tone. Shut up, shut up. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were moist as he roared. In the main hall, the group of Supremes didn't speak. Mohina Dojin was also secretly anxious. Mohina Dojin could see that Guyu Holy Sun's emotions had been manipulated by Yin Chuan. He was controlled by Yin Chuan. Mohina Dojin was secretly anxious. But he didn't dare to move. Jing Ting had already ordered him not to interfere. Shut up? Ah, Guyu Holy Sun, are you deceiving yourself? This is a fact that everyone knows in their hearts. You're the only one who pretends not to know. The lives and dignity of your younger siblings mean nothing to you. They struggled bitterly and were forced to compromise. However, you only added salt to their wounds after they compromised. Yin Chuan continued to stimulate Guyu Holy Sun's emotions. Guyu Holy Sun tried to suppress his emotions, but the more he tried to suppress them, the more violent they became. When he could no longer suppress them, Guyu Holy Sun's emotions would explode like never before. Don't you want revenge? I know that you were in the central divine continent, and I saw you at the divine sect's sacred ground, but that can't be an excuse for you to escape. You just came back and you heard everything from others. Do you know what exactly happened that day? Do you know how your sister-in-law died? Yin Chuan asked in a deep voice. Guyu Holy Sun's eyes were red as he stared at Yin Chuan. In order to suppress the anger in his heart, Guyu Holy Sun didn't say anything. He just stared at him. Many people think that it was Mou Shi, but I want to tell you that it wasn't. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yin Chuan looked at Jing Ting and said, Holy Lord Jing, I want to summon Yang Zigu again. He's an important person. Mohina Dojin's expression changed, and the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Permitted. Following Jing Ting's order, Yang Zigu was quickly summoned into the main hall. Yang Zigu didn't know what was going on. He entered the main hall in a daze. He looked at the true sovereigns around him, then at the people standing in the middle of the hall. His eyes revealed a trace of doubt, and he finally looked to the north of the hall. Chapter 835. Yang Zigu greets the Holy Lord. Yang Zigu said respectfully. Cooperate with Yin Chuan's questioning. Jing Ming said indifferently. Yes. Yang Zhijio nodded with a hint of confusion. Yang Zigu looked at Yin Chuan arrogantly, then looked at Mou Shi as if he was determined to win. Yang Zigu, where were you during the bloody incident at Northern Mo Hall? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. I was in my own hall. Yang Zigu said in a low voice. Are you sure? You weren't by Mohina Dojin's side at that time? Yin Chuan continued to ask. Yin Chuan, why do you care where I was? I wasn't even at the scene of the bloody incident at Northern Mo Hall. You still want to frame me? You've chosen the wrong target. Yang Zigu said disdainfully. Yin Chuan smiled and didn't take it to heart. Instead, he turned to Guyu Holy Sun and said, Guyu Holy Sun, I don't know who you're guessing the real culprit in your heart. However, I want to tell you who the real culprit is. He is in this hall right now. A cold smile appeared at the corner of Dao Monarch Morning Sun's mouth. Mohina Dojin had done it flawlessly, and he was even the victim. Without any evidence, pointing at him would be futile, and he would even be accused of toying with the Holy Lord. The real culprit is him, Yang Zigu? Yin Chuan suddenly pointed at Yang Zigu. Mohina Dojin's expression suddenly changed, and he looked at Yin Chuan in shock. Yin Chuan was accusing Yang Zigu? How could this be? The whole thing was planned by Mohina Dojin, but how could Yin Chuan blame Yang Zigu? Guyu Holy Sun's eyelids twitched, and a look of surprise flashed across his face. All the perfected lords and Dao lords in the hall were confused. Nonsense. Yin Chuan, you're slandering me? You're framing me? I'll kill you. Yang Zigu was instantly enraged. Although he knew the result, it wasn't his doing at all. Impudent. You dare to cause trouble in front of Saint Master Jing? Yin Chuan glared at him. Yang Zigu, stop. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. He's slandering me. Guyu, he's slandering me. Father, he's slandering me. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Slander? Haha, whether it's slander or not, I have proof. Yin Chuan suddenly laughed. Proof? Yang Zigu was surprised. Proof? Wasn't it flawless? How could there be proof? What proof? Guyu Holy Sun said coldly. After being mocked by Yin Chuan, Guyu Holy Sun's insistence began to waver. Yang Zigu, let me ask you. When your father barged into Northern Mo Hall, except for Mo Yushi, everyone else was lying in a pool of blood. When did they die? Was it the moment they barged into the hall? Yin Chuan said. Humph, Yin Chuan, don't even think about framing me. My father wasn't the only one who entered. Many perfected lords were there. The people of Northern Mo Hall have already been dead for 2 hours. During this time, only Mo Yushi was in the hall. No one else was there. Yang Zigu shouted. 2 hours? Are you sure? Yin Chuan smiled. At least 2 hours. Everyone knows. Yang Zigu said coldly. This is the proof. Guyu Holy Sun, of your 7 siblings, the second and sixth are the Holy Sun and Saintess, right? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Guyu Holy Sun's face darkened. He immediately figured it out. Yang Zigu's reaction was a little slower, but after thinking for a while, he opened his mouth. He looked surprised. A loophole. A loophole had appeared. The Holy Sun and Saintess have their own Dharma idols of virtue. The moment they die, their Dharma idols above the cloud of virtue will collapse. These 2 Dharma idols follow Mohina Dojin's Dharma idols. Mohina Dojin should be able to sense it immediately. The 5 sect leaders of the vassal sects are too far away from their respective sects to sense the cloud of virtue. However, Mohina Dojin is right here, but he went to Northern Mo Hall 2 hours later? What? Yin Chuan shouted coldly. What? Everyone was stunned. That's right, there was a time difference here. Yang Zigu took a step back from Yin Chuan's shout. Guyu Holy Sun frowned. Mohina Dojin's expression changed slightly. He wanted to say something but he couldn't. That's why I asked if you were by Mohina Dojin's side at that time. Everyone knows that Mohina Dojin's favorite son is you, Yang Zigu. At that time, you must have begged Mohina Dojin not to tell anyone. Mohina Dojin saw that his sons and daughters were dead, so he delayed it for 2 hours to protect you. Yin Chuan shouted. Mohina Dojin frowned. The 5 vassal sect leaders also frowned. This was Yin Chuan's nonsense. Mohina Dojin was with the 5 sect leaders at that time. How could it be Yang Zigu? No one believed Yin Chuan, but Jing Ting was not allowed to speak. They could only watch patiently. Nonsense. Nonsense. You're lying. I wasn't by my father's side. I wasn't there at that time. Yang Zigu shouted. You know very well whether you were there or not. Don't tell me, tell Guyu Holy Sun. Let's see if he believes you. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Guyu Holy Sun frowned. He only had a little doubt about Yin Chuan's words. Guyu Holy Sun trusted Mohina Dojin more. Guyu Holy Sun, I know you're suspicious. What good will this do to Yang Zigu? Why would Yang Zigu do this? Why don't I suspect Mohina Dojin? Let me tell you. It's because Yang Zigu wants to force Mo Yushi to marry him. You should know that he came to ask Mo Yushi for her hand in marriage, right? I think Yang Zigu must have begged Mohina Dojin, but Mohina Dojin refused. That's why Yang Zigu wants to take the risk and sacrifice his 7 brothers to force Mo Yushi. At the same time, he wants to force Mohina Dojin to go with the flow. If Mohina Dojin agrees, it shouldn't be difficult to make this happen. After all, Mo Yushi is only a holy maiden. You should know the power of a Tao Lord. They probably didn't tell you the truth. Yin Chuan said with a faint smile. Guyu Holy Sun sucked in a deep breath. Guyu Holy Sun knew that his father wanted Yang Zigu and Mo Yushi to marry, but there was no need for it to be so tragic. All his father had to do was beg the Holy Lord and he would agree. But now, could it be that Yang Zigu really did it himself? Guyu Holy Sun's suspicions increased. But it was still far from enough to overturn his initial understanding. Yin Chuan also knew that it was still far from enough. Hence, he continued to weave a lie that would reveal the truth. You're lying, Yin Chuan. Mo Yushi killed them. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. Yang Zigu said anxiously. It has nothing to do with you? You know? Otherwise, how do you explain the evidence just now? Don't worry, Yang Zigu. There are so many perfected lords here. How could I accuse you? Also, the evidence I have is not limited to just this. When I show you the evidence one by one, there's no point in trying to deny it. Yin Chuan shouted. Show me, show me. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Mohina Dojin's face darkened. There was more evidence? How could it be? Mohina Dojin was already surprised by the time difference. How could there be more? Wasn't it flawless? Chapter 836. Wu Clan's Main Hall. All the experts were looking at the scene. From Yin Chuan's analysis, they suddenly realized that this seemingly conclusive case wasn't as simple as it seemed. The 5 vassal sect leaders sneered. The 5 of them didn't believe Yin Chuan, because Mohina Dojin was with them that day. Yin Chuan was talking nonsense. Only Mohina Dojin felt that something was wrong. He was the clearest about his own matters. He clenched his fists tightly, afraid that his 2 sons wouldn't be able to withstand Yin Chuan's pace. Tao Lord Yu looked at Mohina Dojin doubtfully. Shengguan Wana looked at Yin Chuan, and her eyes lit up slightly. Jing Ying's expression didn't change as she watched quietly. Take it, take it. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Looking at the anxious Yang Zigu and the bewildered Guyu Holy Sun, Yin Chuan smiled. Alright, since you want to hear it, then I'll say it. I won't say the version of Mo Yushi's murder. Let me tell you another version. Everyone can treat it as a story. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Everyone stared at Yin Chuan. Say it, let's see what kind of story you can come up with. Yang Zigu said with red eyes. Speaking of which, there was a person called Yang Zigu who took a fancy to Mo Yushi. However, Mo Yushi didn't care about him at all. Yang Zigu was resentful and begged his father, Mohina Dojin. However, Mohina Dojin had other plans and didn't agree. Yang Zigu was indignant and had evil thoughts. He threatened his 7 brothers to frame Mo Yushi and make her lose her position as the Holy Maiden. At that time, the lonely and helpless Mo Yushi wouldn't be able to escape from Yang Zigu's evil clutches. Yin Chuan said loudly. Mo Yushi showed a wronged expression. You're lying. Yang Zigu shouted angrily. I'm not finished yet. Wait for me to finish before you refute. How about it? Yin Chuan said with a smile. The surrounding supremes frowned and looked at Yang Zigu. Yang Zigu suppressed his anger and looked coldly at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan smiled and continued. Yang Zigu wanted to frame Mo Yushi. Therefore, he needed a sure-win scheme that would make Mo Yushi unable to defend herself and make Mo Yushi unable to turn back. Therefore, when the 5 great sects came, Yang Zigu told Mohina Dojin to arrange for Mo Yushi to bring the children of the experts to the exchange and create a massacre at North Mo Hall. The 5 sect masters' sons were all gone. Mohina Dojin sent all his children to the Great Zhao sacred ground. Of course, in order to create an alibi, only Yang Zigu refused to go and did not go. The case continued. North Mo Hall was sealed and outsiders were not allowed to enter. Under Yang Zigu's coercion, several elder brothers drugged the banquet's wine and killed everyone except Mo Yushi. In the end, they committed suicide one after another in pain. At this point, Yang Zigu's scheme succeeded. Mohina Dojin heard the news and wanted to go immediately. However, Yang Zigu suddenly stopped him and begged his father to ignore it. Mohina Dojin was concerned about Yang Zigu and had no choice but to accept the truth. He cooperated with this poisonous scorpion who forced his elder brothers to commit suicide to cover up everything, Yanchuan explained. In the main hall, the experts exchanged glances with each other in surprise. How could there be such a vicious person in the world? Was this for real? Mohina Dojin's face was gloomy. Guyu Holy Sun clenched his fists. Yanchuan's version was not much different from Mohina Dojin's version. However, when he thought of his younger brothers and sisters committing suicide one after another, Guyu Holy Sun could not control himself. You're lying. I didn't. Who would be willing to commit suicide? How could I force them? Yang Zigu shouted. Chapter 837. Suicide doesn't necessarily mean death. Yanchuan suddenly laughed. Oh? Yang Zigu's eyes flashed with panic. You 9 brothers all have the blood of the phoenix in your veins, right? The Phoenix clan has the ability to be reborn. I won't talk about that. Back then, 7 of your brothers died by letting their blood out. Can letting their blood out also cause their souls to disappear? Yanchuan laughed. Yanchuan's actions caused everyone in the hall to tremble. Even the 5 sect masters were deep in thought. Yang Zigu was about to refute, but Yanchuan spoke again. Of course you can say that they don't have the ability to be reborn. But what I want to say is that although they committed suicide and their bodies died, their souls were not destroyed. Obviously they can still split their bodies into 2. They just have to wait for their souls to be reborn in another body. No, they just have to wait for their souls to return to their bodies. Am I right? Yanchuan laughed. Yang Zigu's heart skipped a beat and he took a step back. The 7 of them had their bodies and souls split into 2. Watching their bodies die bit by bit, Yang Zigu, you definitely can't understand this kind of sadness. Guyu Holy Sun, as an elder brother, do you want to see this moment? Yanchuan looked at Guyu Holy Sun and asked. Guyu Holy Sun's face was terrifyingly gloomy. His eyes were bloodshot, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. What an elder brother, what a younger brother, what a father. I think Mohina Dojin was willing to cooperate with Yang Zigu because he saw this. His children can still be reborn, so he turned a blind eye to it. Yanchuan laughed. Yanchuan, you slandered me. I'll fight it out with you. Yang Zigu roared and was about to rush forward. Pa. Guyu Holy Sun stopped Yang Zigu instantly. She knew that this was not a place for her to be impudent. Guyu, get lost. Yang Zigu shouted. Shut up. Guyu Holy Sun shouted. After he finished drinking, Guyu Holy Sun looked at Yanchuan and said coldly, Haha Yanchuan, what you said was very interesting. However, you neglected one point. My 7 sisters-in-law have a very bad relationship with Yang Zigu. Why would they voluntarily commit suicide, just because Yang Zigu forced Mo Yushi to marry him? What? Guyu Saint Child, can't you see what I've said? Are these 7 people still your brothers and sisters? Do you really think of them as your family? You know best what they are thinking. In this world, who would be able to make them give up their lives? At this moment they might not necessarily die, but who do you think would be able to make them give up their lives willingly? Yanchuan took a step forward and asked. Guyu Holy Sun's expression froze. It's you, Guyu Holy Sun. Your 4th sister is willing to sacrifice her life for you. Your 3rd brother is willing to sacrifice his dignity for you. They are proud to have you as their big brother. They have sacrificed too much for you. Are they willing to sacrifice themselves for you? Willingly? How willingly would they do that depends on what Yang Zigu says to them and how he uses you to threaten them. You haven't been home for so long. Is it difficult for Yang Zigu to find an excuse to force them? At least it's not difficult for me. Yanchuan smiled. Guyu Holy Sun's emotions had been disturbed by Yanchuan from the start. At this moment he was in a mess. For me? What? Guyu Holy Sun trusted Yanchuan more and more. Because everything Yanchuan said was true. He's lying. He's spouting nonsense. I didn't. Yang Zigu shouted. Guyu Holy Sun turned his head and stared at Yang Zigu with red eyes. I didn't. Yang Zigu said anxiously. Guyu Holy Sun gritted his teeth and forced himself to turn his head away. He did not look at Yang Zigu's face. He was afraid that he would not be able to control himself. Of course, the most important reason why Guyu Holy Sun was able to control his emotions was that his 7 siblings could still be revived. Chapter 838. Yanchuan, you're spouting nonsense. Yang Zigu shouted angrily. Spouting nonsense? Then I have proof. Yanchuan's eyes turned cold. Proof? The surrounding experts all revealed looks of astonishment. Even Jing Ting, who was sitting on the dragon throne, was curious. Yushi, take it out. Yesterday Yang Zigu came to give you the betrothal gift. Yan Chuan looked at Mo Yushi. Betrothal gift? I only gave him 36 immortal stones. Don't you dare use that to slander me. Yang Zigu shouted angrily. Mo Yushi nodded. She quickly took out the huge box containing the betrothal gift from her storage treasure. Bang! Mo Yushi's hands trembled. The box almost fell open and a fiery red immortal stone rolled to the ground. Ah! Mo Yushi quickly stabilized the remaining immortal stone, preventing it from falling out. Are you all right? Yan Chuan was worried and went to comfort Mo Yushi. The immortal stone rolled to Guyu Holy Sun's feet in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Above the fire-type immortal stone, there was a dense qi swirling around it. Within the swirling qi, one could clearly see the shadow of a fire-type phoenix struggling in pain. Its expression was filled with a heart-wrenching unwillingness. The immortal stone fell. Mo Yushi said, "Let me." Yan Chuan walked over to retrieve it. Guyu Holy Sun's expression changed. In the instant that Yan Chuan grabbed the immortal stone, he snatched it away. Guyu Holy Sun, give this to me. Yan Chuan stretched out his hand. Where did this come from? Guyu Holy Sun roared angrily. This is Yang Zigu's betrothal gift to Mo Yushi. What's wrong? Yan Chuan was confused. That's right. This is my betrothal gift. Yang Zigu shouted. Third brother's aura. This is third brother's aura. I can feel it. This is the connection between our bloodlines. Guyu Holy Sun muttered. What third brother's aura? Third brother's aura? How is that possible? Yang Zigu said disdainfully. Bastard. That's third brother's essence aura and it's connected to me. My aura is connected to my essence. It's third brother's soul. The ancient Moon Holy Sun's eyes were filled with tears. What? Yang Zhijie was confused. You used third brother's soul to refine a weapon? You destroyed third brother's soul. Guyu Holy Sun roared. Guyu Holy Sun would normally suppress his shock and analyze the situation. However, at this moment, Guyu Holy Sun's emotions were completely disrupted by Yan Chuan. Guyu Holy Sun had suppressed his guilt towards his sister-in-law and his own incompetence for a long time. He suddenly realized that his third brother's soul had been destroyed and refined into a weapon. He could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. You killed third brother. Why is third brother's soul here? Why is it here? Guyu Holy Sun roared. If he was calm, Guyu Holy Sun would definitely take the opportunity to attack Mo Yushi. After all, it was possible that Mo Yushi had collected their souls. However, Guyu Holy Sun knew that it could not have been Mo Yushi. Only his father or Yang Zigu had collected their souls. The souls of his sisters-in-law were with his father or with Yang Zhijie. Now everything was as clear as day. I didn't. This is not a soul. This is just a trace of aura. Yang Zigu said in a panic. It's not? That's not enough? I didn't. I never harmed them. I didn't do it. Third brother's soul, then second brother's, fourth brother's, fifth brother's, sixth brother's, seventh brother's and eighth brother's souls. You refined all of them. Guyu Holy Sun roared angrily. Everyone in the hall was tense and so was Dao Monarch Black Sunday. His face was filled with anxiety, but his two sons were quarreling with each other and didn't even look at him. Yan Chuan was also highly focused. Everything was based on speculation. If he wanted to confirm the truth, he had to wait. He had to wait for an opportunity. Yan Chuan stared at the two of them quarreling. I didn't refine them. I didn't. Yang Zigu was anxious and panicked. You didn't? Then how do you explain this? How do you explain this? This is third brother's soul. This is third brother's soul. You refine their souls. You must have refined their souls. I didn't refine them. I didn't refine their souls. I didn't. The evidence is clear. Why are you still quibbling? This is third brother's soul. You refined third brother's soul. Guyu Holy Sun's aura surged. His eyes were red. He grabbed Yang Zigu's collar as if he was going to punch him. I didn't. I didn't. Their souls have nothing to do with me. Yang Zigu roared helplessly. He insisted on his last stand. At this moment, Yan Chuan stepped forward and intervened in the quarrel. If you didn't refine them, then where are the souls of your 7 brothers? I didn't refine them. Their souls are all in the Yin spirit nourishing pool of Father's morning palace. I really didn't. Yang Zigu, who was out of his wits, shouted when Yan Chuan interrupted. However, halfway through, Yang Zigu suddenly woke up with a start. Not only Yang Zigu but Guyu Holy Sun also woke up with a start. Wow! There was an uproar in the main hall. At this moment, everyone looked at Yang Zigu and Guyu Holy Sun in surprise. The 7 souls were still there? They were still alive? Yan Chuan revealed a victorious smile. She grabbed Yan Chuan's sleeve and trembled. If they weren't in the main hall of the Wu clan, she would have jumped up and cheered. Once the 7 souls appeared, all the lies would be exposed. She was innocent in broad daylight. Mr. Monroe revealed an excited smile and looked at Yan Chuan with admiration. The 5 sect masters were all stunned. Then they became angry. Their sons were all dead, but Mohina Dojin's 7 children were still alive? Did Mohina Dojin do it on purpose? The 5 sect masters looked at Mohina Dojin with hatred. Mohina Dojin's body went soft and he almost lost his balance. His tense body seemed to deflate in an instant. It was extremely bitter. The main hall was in an uproar. The case was almost revealed. She didn't do it. She was wronged. Shangguan Wan revealed a trace of excitement. She looked at Yan Chuan and Shi. Then she turned to look at the main hall Jing Ming. Jing Ming's eyes flashed and he revealed a faint smile. However, Jing Ming wasn't looking at Shi. Instead, he was looking at Yan Chuan, who was in control of the situation during the defense. His control of the atmosphere and emotions had reached the extreme. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.